Hello, this is the Stories Beside channel. I release videos every day for you. Subscribe and click the bell.
It seemed to her that she would always be among the losers, but it was just an episode in her life. 5 years of school are behind her. Tomorrow was the graduation ceremony. Kelly couldn't believe this was it. The next thing was sailing on her own. Some of the girls were able to arrange jobs in advance. When internships were held in schools, Kelly was also offered by the director of the Lyceum, where she worked for a month and a half in the 5th year. Only more hustling classmate Betty has already hustled and first applied to that Lyceum, and there she was gladly taken. But Kelly was not discouraged. She'd find a job for sure. And now graduation. Her dorm roommates had curlers on from the night before. Everyone wanted to look beautiful for graduation. But Kelly does not need any curlers. Her hair is naturally thick, curly, straight brown waterfall. In general, Kelly is beautiful, brown eyes, light skin, slender like a twig. The girls even envy her a little. "Kelly, you don't have to work at all. Why do you want to go to school?" Kathy said, "You just wink at some millionaire and he'll call you to the registry office." "Yeah, by the leg." Kelly waved me off. "What do I need millionaires for? They're all fat, bald. What's that all of a sudden?" The girls laughed, because while he was making his millions, the years passed. "And I don't need millionaire girls. I want to meet my love." Kelly confessed, just once and for all. Who doesn't dream of that? Nancy sighed. "That's what I want too. But that's just the way it is in the movies. In life, wherever you look, all the guys are either some kind of underachievers, or how can I put it mildly? They're not interested in girls. Oh, Nancy, you like to exaggerate everything." Lisa disagreed with her. "I'm like Kelly. I believe my soulmate is out there somewhere." And the girls chatted and chatted, forgetting the time. And when they looked at the clock, they gasped. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Tomorrow's presentation at 10 o'clock. Urgent, all to bed. And in the morning, the room was in turmoil. The girls painted eyelashes, did each other's hair, dressed up, and then all rushed, clacking their heels down the stairs. Wendy the janitor saw them off with a smile, wondering how fast time had flown by. Just yesterday, these girls were very young, and today they were so beautiful. It was crowded at the award ceremony. Yesterday's students, teachers, parents. Kelly looked at her classmates with a little sadness at whose parents were able to come. Her friends' moms had come too, and Nancy's dad, an important man in a jacket. And no one came to Kelly's. There was no one. The year Kelly went to college, her mom was gone. She was the only relative in the girl's life, and it so happened that she raised Kelly alone, and never said a word about her father, neither bad nor good, as if he was not even in nature. Kelly and her mother lived in a small working village without anyone's help and support, and when her mom was gone, Kelly didn't even want to go to school. And only her mother's words shortly before she left prevented her from doing so. "You, my daughter, go here, get an education. In this life, you only need to rely on yourself." Mom said the day before, as if she had a premonition of something. And forgive me, I'm not a good helper. And that's the only time she ever mentioned her father, like Kelly. He's a big name in town. He must be in a position of power somewhere. And that was it. By morning, Mom was gone. Kelly overcame herself and went away to study. It was hard for her without support and only payments for loss of breadwinners saved, and also worked part-time girl in a night stall in the dormitory. That's how she lived, and she didn't look for her father. Somehow she didn't gather her courage. And how could she look for him? She will not be all brown-eyed, dark-haired famous people suspect paternity. Let her live as she knows how. Did not know about her for so many years, and now do not need. Kelly was distracted from sad thoughts by fanfare. The rector came out, then the dean. They said something. Then the awarding of diplomas. Everything went great. After the newly minted specialists, the whole company rushed to the embankment in a street cafe. So they decided to spend their studentship simply and cheerfully, and all succeeded. Late at night, standing by the river, the girls dreamed. Now all roads are open before them. A new and happy life was ahead of them, and in a week they had to move out of the dormitory. It was easier for Nancy and Lisa. Their parents had rented apartments for them. Kathy had moved in with her aunt temporarily. But Kelly had a lot of work to do. She couldn't just rent an apartment. She just didn't have the money. So she looked for an apartment, and the janitor helped her. Grandma Wendy had a relative who lived downtown. Her younger sister had recently buried her husband. Her kids have their own lives, and she has a 4-bedroom apartment. Can you believe it? That's what Wendy's grandma said. That's a lot of utility bills. She keeps complaining to me that half of her money is spent on the bills. She says we should get a tenant, so she asked me to find her a place. And maybe I'm not suitable for her. Kelly sighed. And how much will she charge me? Oh, don't worry, waved his hands janitoress. You will get along with her. She, of course, a woman with a temper, not for nothing that all her life married to the chief of police was, and with her older son does not communicate, although he lives in the city. But that's their personal affairs, so she is quite adequate and will not take much, you'll see. There was nothing to do, Kelly agreed. The same day she went to the address Wendy had given her. The door was opened by a woman about 60 years old in a Chinese kimono, with some impossible hairstyle on her head. In her arms was a bald cat. Kelly, seeing the animal, even shuddered. She didn't understand why they had to have such monsters, but she didn't let on. She introduced herself, explained why she was here. Yes, Wendy told me. The woman answered with a yawn. Come in. My name is Vanessa. The apartment was lavish, the kind of furnishings Kelly had only seen in movies, and she was confused. And the landlady didn't have enough to pay the utilities. Anyway, here we go. Vanessa began, scratching her sphinx behind the ear. I won't charge you anything for the room. Only the utilities will be shared. And you'll also help me around the house. Clean, cook, go to the store, go and look after Tom, if anything. Tom? Kelly was surprised. Yes, for Tom. Vanessa replied defiantly and pointed at the cat. Or do you think he has a bad name? No, do you? Kelly nodded in confusion. It's a good name, and he's a very nice cat. Although, to be honest, the name Tom in her mind suggested a different animal, a fluffy, fat cat. Like she and Mom used to have, but not this one, like the chicken in the store. What can you do? It wasn't the animal's fault. Kelly smiled. Cute kitty, cute kitty, cute. Vanessa's smile blossomed into a smile. The cat meowed something unhappily in response. Okay, let's go. I'll show you your room. But Vanessa, you know that I'm getting a job. I can only help you in the evenings. Get a job. Vanessa shrugged. We'll adjust your schedule so you can get everywhere. Kelly was a little embarrassed that the woman had already planned everything for her, but she had no choice because Kelly had to live somewhere. The room was the smallest in the apartment, but it was cozy. There were no expensive things here. Everything was simple and practical, and Kelly was fine with that. Vanessa explained that her housekeeper had lived here for a while, and then she quit. I've been on my own with Tom ever since. Vanessa sighed. do you know how hard it is to be alone? Come on, get settled in. And in an hour we'll have tea." And exactly an hour later they were sitting in the kitchen. Vanessa said that after her husband was gone, she was very lonely, and the children had all gone away. Vanessa sighed. The daughter lives abroad, the younger son in New York, and the eldest, well, God be with him. He's fine. Kelly realized that there was some family problem, but it was somehow not tactful to ask for more details, so she didn't say anything. Vanessa's tea was delicious, and the service was so beautiful. It was the first time Kelly drank tea from such beautiful cups. Her husband had brought them back from a business trip. I don't remember where he went. Vanessa explained, noticing Kelly looking at the patterns on the cup. "Real Chinese porcelain. Well, we've had our tea, and that's enough. Why don't you tidy up the place and be careful with the cups? Ton and I are going to go and have a rest." And she and the cat, who sat in her arms like a wooden one, left the kitchen and looked in again. Then washed the window here, because something dusty already. Badly last week. Probably the housekeeper cleaned. And also go to the store. I'll make you a list. And I also need to water the flowers in the living room and loosen them. Oh, it's the other way around. Vanessa, I have to go to the dorms to get my stuff. Kelly barely got a word in between the hostess's instructions. You'll do everything, and then you'll go. Vanessa shrugged her lips. I'll remind you that you're living here for free, so you have to help me for that. Kelly nodded in response. What to do? She had no other option. She would have to adjust to Vanessa. In the evening, Kelly finally went to the dormitory to get her things. Grandma Wendy was on watch. So, Kelly, are you talking to Vanessa? When she saw the girl, the old lady was the first to speak. I did. Kelly nodded tiredly. I see she's already filling you with errands. Wendy grinned. Oh, sister. She's used to having everyone running around her. Don't be mad, baby. I just want what's best for you. She's not bad. You just have to find an approach to her. Kelly just smiled back. And Wendy herself, I wondered if she'd found an approach to her sister. But come on, it's not like living on the street. What a nice place. The next day, Kelly decided to go to the nearest schools in the neighborhood. Maybe she'd get lucky. At the first school, they looked at her like she was an alien. What are the stakes? We've been staffed for years, only professionals. At the second school, they asked for her diploma. Oh, you have a C for literature? The principal exclaimed, looking at the diploma insert. You coped with the university program, and now you want to work in a school. What will you teach your children? This is the only C. Kelly replied with a grudge, and I got it the first time, while others took it 3 times. And I'm not interested in others. With a grin replied the principal. You came to us. It is not knowing whether you really studied. Maybe you bought a diploma in the crosswalk. That was too much, but Kelly just flashed a glare, said nothing and left, slamming the door. C's. You'd think that only those who graduated with a red diploma would work at this very ordinary school. Kelly was moved to tears by the unfounded accusations. She had studied conscientiously for 5 years, was one of the most successful students in the course, and here's some nasty suspicions. Say, bought a diploma. Why are they talking to her like that? In the third school, she found the answer to this question. The administration wasn't there, but the words of the eager technician explained everything to Kelly. What are you, sweetie? No one will take you from the street, said the woman when she heard that Kelly was looking for a job. They have their own rules here, matchmaker, brother, neighbor, and so on. Besides, the old teachers take 2 jobs and will never give them to anyone in their life. It's only on TV they say that young people don't go to school, but in reality they have all taken their places and can't be moved. Kelly listened to the woman and felt so sad. Why did she go to school? And what a fool she had been. After all, the director of the Lyceum offered her a job then, and she still thought. Now it's too late. Back in the apartment, Kelly immediately received an assignment to take out the trash, take things to the dry cleaners, and go to the pharmacy for vitamins for the cat. Kelly, get exactly the vitamins I wrote down. Vanessa held out a piece of paper with the name of the medication and the money. Kelly nodded tiredly and left the apartment again. She wanted to get some rest after running around school. Her head hurt a little. The girl swallowed the pill and quickened her step. Now she would do everything, go back to her room and lie down. What did you buy? Vanessa was indignant when Kelly returned and gave her the jar of vitamins and the change. It's a different manufacturer. But the pharmacy said there was no difference. It had the same ingredients. Kelly objected. How much do you understand? These pills make Tom dizzy. Kelly shrugged her shoulders and laughed to herself. How did Vanessa know that Tom was dizzy? Had he told her that? But her mood soured when Vanessa told her that in addition to the utility bills, Kelly now owed for those vitamins. Vanessa, I haven't even earned a penny yet. The girl almost begged. I'll pay it all back, only a little later. And I wondered where they would take you, such a foolish girl. Vanessa grinned back. You know what, girl? You should make up your mind. I'm not doing charity work. Oh, by the way, do the dishes in the kitchen. And she and the cat went to her room. And Kelly stared at the sink full of dishes. When had that woman gotten so many dishes dirty? Kelly had left the kitchen perfectly clean this morning. And somehow it's strange. In fact, she performs the functions of a housekeeper, and she has to pay for accommodation. Food was out of the question. Kelly ate in the canteen, and here in the apartment only tea and drank. After a week, the girl realized that she and Vanessa would not be able to live under the same roof for long. Instructions came like from the Horn of Plenty as soon as Kelly stepped over the threshold. And then there's the ridicule. What kind of school is this? The landlady liked to say, scrubbing floors, that's what you do. And you're a troublemaker, just like my eldest son. He's a troublemaker too. All his life he was fussing, looking for a better life, not listening to his mother. And now what? Kelly wouldn't listen to her, but Vanessa went on. He was looking for love, and then he found himself an otter. He wouldn't listen to his mother. He lives with her, almost never comes to see me. Once a year he checks if she's still alive. It's fine that he got a higher education. He's still a fool. And so are you. What's the use of your diploma when you don't know anything about life? What do I know? Kelly asked resentfully. For this life with teeth should be grasped, and where necessary, and go over the heads. And you don't have it in you. You're spineless. Listening to Vanessa's insults, the girl did not want to listen anymore. She gathered her things, threw the key on the nightstand in the hallway, and went to the exit. What a touchy one. Vanessa shouted goodbye to her. Look, what a princess. Kelly didn't answer her. And only when she jumped out of the entrance, sat on a bench and cried. Maybe Vanessa was right. You have to go head to head in this life. But is it the right thing to do? Her mom always said that one should respect another person's opinion, be more tolerant, show kindness of heart. And what happened? Her mom was just over 40 when she died. She never hurt anyone in her life. She worked in a village school, and that was it. She didn't achieve anything. They even had a service apartment. After her mother died and she was taken away, Kelly herself also tried to live according to her conscience. But there was always a brazen grasp ahead. Become like that? No, disgusting. Kelly can't. What is it, sweetheart? Are you from Vanessa's? From apartment 12? She heard a woman's voice and looked up. There was an old lady standing next to her, a dandelion of a woman. Kelly nodded back. The old woman had fooled another girl again. The old woman sighed and sat down next to her, and then she told her story. It turns out that Vanessa has been practicing this for a long time. She finds girls who urgently need a place to live. Most often she finds such girls through acquaintances, so that they were decent, and as if for free, but loads her with so much work that the housekeeper has to work there from dawn to dusk. And the girls have their own lives and their main job. Some will live a month, some 2. There was one who lasted about a year. But you, baby, you're just a newcomer. Yeah, a little over a week. Kelly nodded. But I can't go any longer. That's right. I can't stand that woman. She's been bossy all her life. Her husband was only a boss at work, but at home he was her boss. Her children, she has 3 of them. The younger ones ran away from her as soon as they were on their feet. And the eldest, William, was always Vanessa's sort of unloved son, but he did everything for her and took her groceries and medicine, she said. And then she got fed up with him and started divorcing him and his wife. Not only that, in his youth, the man did not give life. All the bride, he was looking for a more profitable bride. And here she began. In general, he broke up with his mother in a puff of smoke and dust. He hasn't come to visit for a year now, but he calls, that's for sure. He sends her food and money through his driver. Vanessa keeps crying, saying she's poor and unhappy. She's insolent. Let her live with her bald man and her cat. And you, little girl, are right not to put up with it. It's better to live on the street than with such a landlady, said the old lady and went to the entrance, and Kelly only smiled sadly. It's good to think like that when you have a place to live. But what should she do? She decided to call her friends. Nancy was very happy when she heard her friend and immediately bragged that her father had arranged a job for her as a secretary in one of the institutions of the city. Nancy, I don't have a place to live. Kelly shared her distress. No way. That's the trouble. Oh, but I don't know what I can do to help you. Can I stay with you for a few days? I'll find something later. I've got some money left over from my old job at the stall. I think I can find something cheap. Oh, really? Nancy exclaimed. Kelly, I'd love to, but I can't. When they rented out my apartment, the owners told me not to have any guests, because you know what niggers are like, they'll rat you out. Okay, I'm sorry to bother you, Nancy. No, it's fine. You call me if you need anything. And Nancy disconnected the phone first. There you go. Kelly grinned sadly. One less friend, but Lisa shouldn't say no, she's easier. Where's it going? Lisa, as soon as she heard Kelly's problem, told her that she had already met a great guy, and now he was living at her place, and the apartment was a studio. Once again, Kelly apologized for disturbing the peace of her friend. She fervently wished the girl to solve all her problems soon. Kelly, I'm sure everything will be fine. You just keep your head up. You will definitely everything will work out, Lisa said. Kelly was the first to interrupt the conversation. She didn't really want to call Kathy. They'd always gotten on a little better somehow. Kathy is mocking, sarcastic even. Kelly was always a little uncomfortable with her remarks, but she called, What are you crying about? Kathy exclaimed when she heard Kelly sniffle as she recounted her misfortune. Well, get on the first bus and go to the end of the line. I'll meet you at the stop. Kathy, what about your aunt? Kelly asked shyly. She wouldn't like having a stranger in the apartment. My Aunt Miranda is a worldly woman. Of course we'll be a little cramped, but we'll get by. I can't just leave you on the street. We're friends." "Thank you, Kathy." "Sneeze again, Kelly. I thought you'd say no, too." "What do you mean, too?" "So, Nancy, did Lisa call yet?" Rats. Kathy was outraged. "Well, to hell with them. Let them go on with their lives. But you go to my place." Soon the girls met at the bus stop, hugged each other, and Kelly was met at the apartment by a young and pretty woman, about 30 years old. "And this is my aunt." Kathy introduced her with a smile. "Aunt Miranda, my mom's younger sister." "Oh, Kathy, if you call me auntie again, I'll drag you away by your ears." The relative laughed with a white-toothed smile. "I'm Miranda. I think there used to be such a series." Kelly smiled. "Oh, baby, my life is cooler than any show." Miranda laughed, and then the three of them drank tea in the kitchen and talked about nothing. Kelly was melting her soul. Yes, she'd been wrong about Kathy. Kathy was the only one to give her a helping hand in a difficult situation, and Miranda was so friendly. My auntie would give any man a head start. Kathy whispered to Kelly in the late afternoon when they were already asleep on the sofa. "She's a racer." "A racer? How come you never told me about her before?" "Yes, she and my mother quarreled more than 10 years ago. My mother and grandparents wanted her to continue the family tradition. She also went to the Pedagogical Institute, and Miranda sent everyone far away and got a job in the city in a cafe as a waitress. Then she met her first husband, and he left her this apartment when they separated. By then she'd opened a little store. She started selling car parts, not groceries. She met a customer at the store, a professional race car driver. He became her second husband. She started riding with him, and then she split up with him. But they're still friends, unlike the first one. They continue to participate in all sorts of motorsport competitions together. And the store? It's a store. Miranda runs it, and she hired me as a sales girl." "Kathy, you went into sales? I don't understand. Why did you go to college? You sound just like my mother, higher education and all that. What do I need that education for? To earn pennies? No, I'll earn much more here, and I like it. Maybe you'll find yourself a racing driver husband too. It's not out of the question." And the girls laughed, so much so that Miranda from the next room said sleepily, "Girls, it's nighttime." Kelly and Kathy fell silent, but for a long time they whispered about their own girlish things. In the morning they went about their business. Kelly decided to go to school again, as she had another school in mind. The principal, a middle-aged man, received her immediately. He looked at her silently for a long time while she explained how she loved children and dreamed of working at the school. But he didn't even look at her diploma. "Do you have a medical book?" the principal asked with interest. "Yes, of course." Kelly nodded. "And you went through everything there? All the tests? The gynecologist?" The director licked his lips and grinned wickedly. "All of them," Kelly answered, and she herself just shuddered from his grin and prickly eyes. "Well then, come back tomorrow. Write an application. We'll take you to social pedagogues." "Why social pedagogues? I'm an English teacher." "Well, we only have a social pedagogue position available, but if you and I work together, we'll see what we can do." Kelly nodded and stormed out of the office. The girl cried with embarrassment and indignation. Is that what he was implying now? This principal? What a horror! She would never set foot in that school again as long as there were such leaders. After that, Kelly sat in the park for a long time thinking. Maybe she was going down the wrong road. If she couldn't get a job at her school, then maybe she shouldn't. Maybe Kathy was right to go to work at the store. And as if on purpose, on her way home, she saw an ad on the door of one of the supermarkets announcing that they needed sales clerks and cashiers. She immediately went in and asked about the vacancy and was gladly hired. One more salesperson in this world, Miranda joked, when she found out where Kelly had gotten the job. You're doing the right thing. You've got to be able to move on in this life. Yeah, one more salesman, and somewhere out there in another life crying, unrecognized teacher. Kathy picked up on that. It's okay, life is long, maybe I'll work in a school, but for now I have to earn a living. I can't stay with you forever, answered Kelly. Yes, Kelly, you're doing the right thing. Miranda agreed. No, I'm not hounding you, but you have your own life. So, Auntie, should I look for something for myself too? Jokingly asked Kathy. Oh, Kathy, I still have to marry you, and then you'll move out. And there, you'll see and my parents and your mother, for this good deed, I will thank me. You're looking for a millionaire. Kathy wouldn't stop. Yeah, now a millionaire, I'll need one myself. The aunt and her niece joked and laughed heartily, and Kelly laughed with them. So easily and quickly they were suddenly friends, and Kathy opened up to her in a new way. A true friend, one of 3 left. Kelly blended into the new team quickly and easily. Working in the trade was already familiar to her. Of course, there was a big store, but the principle of work had not changed. Be polite, smile, and keep an eye on the availability of goods. Kelly didn't get a job at the cash register right away. I had to work in the sales area, but after a month or so, the girl sat behind the cash register. Here was more responsible, but Kelly was not afraid. She knew how to count money. With customers was friendly. Once before closing time, a young man ran into the store, quickly dived between the rows, and in just a minute was at the cash register. Just a sprinter. Kelly smiled to herself and punched a can of drink. 120, she said. The guy reached into his pocket for his wallet, his face stretched out. Did I leave my wallet at home? He mumbled confusedly. Young lady, you wait, please. I'll run to get the money. I'm not far away. I live next door. We are already closing. Monotonously for Kelly, answered her partner Molly. Come back tomorrow, young man. Yes, I need to now. I'll fall asleep without energy, and I still have half the night to work. And what do you work? Kelly asked me. I'm nothing important, answered the guy, continuing to feel his pockets in the hope of finding at least some change. But if it's not important, then all the more so, Molly said firmly. Molly, wait. Kelly stopped her gently and turned to the guy. I have already punched the goods anyway. Let me put my money in now, and you'll bring it to me tomorrow? I work in the morning. The guy nodded gratefully in response and vowed to be at the store at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Kelly, are you stupid? Molly asked her. As soon as the guy disappeared with the purchase. You do realize you gave this guy his shopping spree, right? I think he's coming. With a smile, Kelly replied, I can see he's honest. They're all honest as long as they want something. Molly grinned. You're a simple soul, and if you keep doing that, you'll be working for thanks. But I was wrong, Molly. In the morning at exactly 9 o'clock, as promised, the guy was already in the store. He gave Kelly the money and then held out a modest bouquet of chrysanthemums. Here you go. Oh, come on. Kelly was embarrassed. No, you don't. Yes, you do. The guy was staring at Kelly with his eyes wide open. Such a beautiful girl deserves to be given flowers every day. My name's Kevin, by the way. Kelly? I know. The guy smiled, nodding at his name tag, and the two of them laughed merrily. In the evening, Kevin waited for Kelly outside the store, walked her home, and told her about himself. He, like Kelly, had come to the city from the country. He was good at sports at school, especially good at soccer. He went to a physical education technical school. At first, he played in a soccer team for his school, then for the city. He went to various competitions, showed great promise, and then an injury. And now he works at a sports school as a coach. You said yesterday you were working nights? Kelly remembered. Hey, Kevin brushed it off. Yes, I watch the matches. It's very important for my work. I watch, I memorize. I see. Kelly nodded. Good for you. You work by profession anyway, and I'm a teacher of English language and literature, and I sit at the cash register. So you're a teacher? Kevin was surprised. We're almost colleagues? Sort of. Kelly laughed. They agreed to meet the next night and said goodbye, just shaking hands. Kathy, I met such a cute guy. Kelly was telling her friend. He's a soccer player. Wow. Miranda overheard and jumped in. What team does he play on? He doesn't play on any team. He works at a sports school now. Kelly shrugged. He's a great guy. Dude, they're all great until they get their way. Kathy sighed. You'd better be careful with him. Get to know him first. You sound just like your mommy. Kelly dismissed it. No, Kathy's right. Miranda agreed with her niece. Who knows about that athlete? Before you know it, you'll be with child. And your soccer player will be out of the picture. I wasn't thinking of anything like that. Kelly blushed. You should think about it. Miranda said instructively. Okay, girls, let's go to sleep. Kelly couldn't sleep half the night, thinking about Kevin. No, he's nice. He's really nice. Soon they started dating. Kevin was staying in a friend's house too. After a bit of thinking, they decided to rent a small apartment, old, unrenovated, almost without furniture. There was only a sofa, a table, and an old refrigerator. But it was cheap. Miranda and Kathy helped Kelly make some minor repairs and left, making her promise that if anything went wrong, they'd kick Kevin to the curb. Kelly promised, even though she knew she wouldn't send him away, because she loved him with all her heart. And a couple months later, they signed, simply, without guests and outfits, decided that the money is not enough. Why splurge? Especially since Kevin's parents are old and live far away. Kelly has no family at all. Miranda and Kathy have gotten distant lately. They've got their own lives. Better save up for a down payment on a mortgage. They were thinking of buying this place in the future. So what if it's old? They'll renovate it. They had a real honeymoon. Or rather, a week when they got time off work. No, they didn't go abroad or to the sea. They just had a good time together. They walked around the city, rode the river streetcars, just enjoyed each other. And Kelly, that was enough. The first problem started when Kevin got into trouble at work. One of his students was injured during warm-ups, and Kevin was blamed for it. Oversight. The kid had powerful parents, and Kevin was fired. Kelly was the main target, but she took it calmly because she was sure that Kevin will soon find a new job. And what happened at the old one was just an unfortunate misunderstanding. A month went by. Kevin couldn't find anything. Why don't you try being a security guard? Kelly suggested it. There's an opening at our store. Are you kidding me? That's when Kevin got mad. I'm an athlete first and foremost, and you're telling me to sit around. No, I've got a couple other options. They should call soon. But no one called him. Kevin sat on the couch all day, watching TV, more and more soccer games. Coming home from work at night, Kelly would start washing dirty dishes in the sink, cooking dinner, cleaning up. On her timid remarks, say, "You can do something around the house for the day," Kevin replied that this is not a man's work. And why did I marry you if I myself will cook soup and wash socks?" he said. Once again he pressed the button on the remote control, and into the apartment burst another broadcast of a soccer match, and money was in short supply. So Kelly found a part-time job. She got a job on an educational website as a supervisor. Checked the work of guys who were preparing for exams on online courses. An old laptop, which the woman bought not so long ago, became a good assistant. Of course, he did not solve all the material problems, but now it was possible not to puzzle over what to pay for the apartment. After a while, Kevin began to leave the house in the evenings. He'd come in the morning. He smelled of booze. To all Kelly's questions, he'd say, "He's a man, he's entitled. What do you have a right to?" One day, Kelly couldn't take it anymore and she started screaming. "Go out at night, drink on my money?" "Oh, that's how you talk." Kevin got angry. "So it's your money?" "I thought it was mutual. We're like a family, but you're the man. You're kind of the breadwinner." "I know we're a family. Do you?" "Kevin, when I married you, I thought we were gonna work things out together. And you put it all on me. You sit in front of the TV all day, and now you're drinking." Kelly yelled, "Yeah, it's a mess, but it has to be dealt with. What kind of man are you? You sit on my neck and you're happy. Oh, you don't like me as a man?" Kevin caught on to the word and took a swing. That night he hit Kelly for the first time, slapped her. The woman cried in the kitchen all night. In the morning, on his knees, Kevin apologized. He swore that soon everything would change. He would find a job. Kelly wouldn't have to work 2 jobs and sleep 4 o'clock a night. Yeah, things would change. And Kelly believed him and decided to forget the slap. After all, she provoked it. Shouldn't have charged him when he'd been drinking. After a week, Kevin had really changed. Eyes lit up. Drove around, made a couple phone calls. One morning, he showed up at Kelly's, clean-shaven and in a suit. "Where are you going?" Kelly gasped. "I got a job," proudly replied Kevin. "One of my friends offered me a job with a rich family, to accompany the child to school, to pick him up from school. I'll drive him around." "Kelly, would you have seen that car? It's a dream, the latest model." Kelly didn't know much about car brands, so it didn't make a big impression on her, but she was so happy. Finally, the black streak in their lives was over. Now Kevin would get a grip on his head and everything would be fine. Also, the kid's mother found out I was a soccer player and asked me to tutor her son. Not for free, of course. "Anyway, Kelly, we're gonna make a life, you and me," Kevin said, and then laughing happily, he picked Kelly up and took her for a spin. And she laughed. Now they'll be healed. But Kathy, when she called her friend to see how she was doing, didn't share her joy. You should find out who this family is, what the guy does for a living, what his wife looks like. Or look, this employer with your husband. Kathy warned me. "Nonsense, you say." Kelly dismissed it. She didn't even think it was possible. After 2 months, Kelly noticed that Kevin was coming home later and later. One night he didn't come home at all, and the next evening he showed up smelling of women's perfume. Kelly found traces of lipstick on his shirt, and she made a huge scene. Screaming, crying, blaming her husband, and he looked at her with a grin. "You chicken." Finally he said, "Have you looked at yourself in the mirror long ago? When was the last time you were in the hairdresser? And what are you wearing? Have you ever heard of dresses? Always in the same jeans and stretchy sweatshirts." "I don't have time for salons." With resentment, Kelly said, "I've been working 2 jobs, and I'm still working 2 jobs. I don't see your paycheck. Okay, first, you said you had to dress appropriately. Then you had to get a bodyguard's license, also for a fee. Meanwhile, I was paying rent, buying groceries. Where's your paycheck? In a safe place. Kevin grinned cheekily. And it's none of your business. What do you mean? That's what I mean. Chicken. I'm leaving you. Kelly's eyes darkened when she heard that. No, it can't be. He's just telling her to spite her, because they love each other. You disgust me. Kevin said angrily, I'm in a relationship, and you should know who I'm in a relationship with. You'll never be like that. Jenna, she's wonderful. Jenna, who's that? The woman who hired me. What about her family? She has a son, a husband. No husband. He died a year ago. But Liam and I got along, and he doesn't mind calling me Dad. After Kevin said that, he started packing his things. Kelly sat silently watching. There were no more tears. The man she loved so much, the one she would turn herself inside out for, had betrayed her in such a despicable way. Kevin, as if nothing had happened, was rummaging through his closet. His cell phone rang. Yes, honey. Yeah, I talked to her. He said cheerfully into the receiver and looked at Kelly with a sneer. It's okay, come on over. Kelly felt as if she had been punched in the face by those words. She jumped up and started to push Kevin out of the apartment, and he only laughed. Kelly, you're a loser, he said to her already on the doorstep, slinging his bag over his shoulder. You realize life is a game, and you'll always be on the losing side. Go away already, Kelly whispered helplessly. I can't see you anymore. And life will put everything in its place. Let's see which one of us loses. Kevin laughed and walked out, slamming the door. Kelly slid down the wall and howled like a wounded wolf. She didn't go to work in the morning. She called in sick. She was indeed sick. Her soul ached from the betrayal of her loved one. All day she lay on the couch, curled up, and in the evening the doorbell rang. Kevin's back. He's changed his mind. She would forgive him. Kelly jumped up from the couch, but Kathy was there. Hello, friend, Kathy said cheerfully. Why do you look so bad? Are you sick? And why is your cell phone unavailable? I've been calling. I was worried about you. Must be dead. Kelly remembered and hurried to turn her phone back on. What if Kevin called? But no, he didn't. Tell me about it. Kathy didn't ask, she demanded, and then Kelly burst into tears. She sobbed. She fell on her friend's shoulder and talked, while Kathy listened and grew more and more gloomy. What a bastard, she said when she found out. I always knew he was a bastard. I didn't like him, but on the other hand, it's a good thing I did. Kelly, imagine if you had a child. How much worse would that be? Kathy, I kind of am. Kelly sobbed. What? Are you pregnant or something? Kathy exclaimed. Kelly just nodded. She'd been meaning to tell Kevin, but she'd been putting it off, waiting for the right opportunity, and it hadn't presented itself. Don't tell him, Kathy advised. Find a good doctor. He'll do it, and you'll forget the whole story like a bad dream. No doctor, whispered Kelly. Kathy, I can't do this. Why not? Can you imagine being alone with a baby? I do, 'cause my mom raised me alone too. I can do it. Kathy, I was up all night tonight thinking. You know, this baby is a part of me. It's like taking a piece of my heart. I can't do it. Well, then we gotta get this creep back into the family. We have to tell him about the baby. That's not necessary. Kathy, I thought he was coming back tonight. I mean, we had a fight. He'd make something up out of anger. But he didn't. I'm looking at his face right now before he left. Kathy, he's happy with someone else. He doesn't need me or the baby. We'll see about that. Kathy was angry. No, this creep is going to enjoy his life, and you're here with his baby. You can't do that. At least let him pay child support. In vain, Kelly asked Kathy not to tell Kevin about the baby. She found him anyway and told him everything. They met at the coffee shop. What does she want from me? Kevin shrugged. I'm not sure it's my baby at all. Who was she hanging around her store with? Anyway, if she thinks I'm going to pay her child support, she's wrong. She's not getting a dime from me. I'll prove the baby's not mine. But it's your baby. I'll prove it's not mine. Kevin grinned cheekily. At that time, a spectacular blonde girl, a little older than Kevin, and a boy of about 10 years old came to the table. Honey, here we are. The woman smiled. Lunch? Yes, Jenna, of course. Kevin smiled eagerly. He jumped up from his seat, helping the woman sit down, then sat the boy down. Tousled his hair affectionately, and he smiled back. What an idyll. Kathy couldn't stand it any longer and stood up. Are you aware, dear Jenna, that your Kevin is about to become a father? Jenna, don't listen. Kelly's making it up. Kevin started to justify himself. Jenna grimaced and looked squeamishly at Kathy. I realize you're a friend of Kelly's, so give her some friendly advice about terminating the pregnancy and staying out of our family. Kevin and I are a family. We've already filed the divorce papers with your Kelly. Kathy smirked. Aha. She said nothing more and walked away from the ugly couple and the spoiled boy who sat with his feet up on a neighbor's chair. How to help her friend? Kathy decided not to say anything to her about the meeting at the cafe, so as not to upset Kelly further. At first, Kelly felt as if her soul had been ripped out of her, but gradually she began to come to her senses, and even the divorce went completely calm, and she didn't say anything about the pregnancy. Out of pride, Kevin didn't ask. He wasn't interested in Kelly's problems now. He had a new love, and Kelly lived in a modest rented apartment. She worked at the store. In due time went on maternity leave, and until the birth continued to work with her students on online courses. The labor began suddenly, rapidly, at night. She just got up from her desk, turning off her laptop, as her stomach contracted sharply. She reached for the phone with her last strength. Why did you take so long? The paramedic in the ambulance told her off on the way to the hospital. You should have been hospitalized a week ago. I couldn't. Squirming in pain, Kelly said, I have a job. Everybody's got work, sighed the paramedic, and you need to think about you and the baby right now. It's gonna be okay, Mommy. Don't worry. My son was born healthy. Dark-haired, like Kelly, Kevin's blonde. If he looks like his mommy, he'll be happy, said the nurse as she brought the baby in for his first feeding. You have a good boy. My boy, Kelly said fondly and cried. Why are you crying? You should be happy. Others dream of such happiness for years. I understand, but I'm scared. He and I are the only ones in this world. You have each other, and that's the main thing. While he's little, you'll take care of him, and when he grows up, your son will be your protector. That's right, a protector. Kelly smiled through her tears and cuddled her baby boy. She would do anything to make her baby happy. From the hospital, Kelly and Robert were picked up by Kathy and Miranda. They got ready, bought presents, and helped with everything at first. And then Kathy arrived one day confused. Kelly, I need to have a serious talk with you. What's wrong? Kelly's scared. I'm getting married. Why are you saying that like you've been hit with a bag? Dude, congratulations. Yeah, thanks, but I'm leaving. Noah's from out of town. He's got his own chain of body shops. So I've made up my mind. But that's great. Kathy, I hope you'll be happy. Yeah, he's a good guy, but I'm worried about you. You're on your own. My auntie went south too, married a Southerner, sold her business, and doesn't seem to regret it. That's how fast she did it. She sends her love. Kelly, how are you gonna be all alone? Of course, Kelly was a little confused. She's used to Kathy helping her out, looking after Robert, Miranda dropping in occasionally. Now she's on her own, but Miranda and Kathy have their own lives to manage. I can manage. She nodded confidently. Don't worry about me, be happy. But we'll call you, even visit you when we can. Of course, friend. And they hugged goodbye, even cried. But we have to move on. Until the age of 1.5 years, Robert, Kelly somehow managed to make ends meet, and then from the state payments were very meager. And the courses she'd been working part-time had all but died out. There wasn't enough money for food. It all went to rent. Kelly thought about working, but she couldn't go out to the store yet. Robert had no one to leave him with. The nursery school waiting list was so long that it would be 2 more years. One day she saw an ad on a bus stop that a real estate company needed a sticker. Figured there is obviously no rigid schedule, decided to call. Here's 1,000 flyers. Handed to her in the office of the girl administrator. For 5 days you need to go around the streets that will be on your list and paste ads. For this you will receive $20. Keep in mind that your work will be checked. The money was not much, but Kelly agreed. At least Robert would have enough for milk and cottage cheese. So she started working as a poster girl. She would get up early in the morning while Robert was sleeping and run around the neighborhood with glue and flyers. It was good where there were special boards for announcements on the entrances, but more often she had to paste them directly on the walls. Often she heard so many nasty things about herself because she was dirtying the walls. Kelly had a plan or she wouldn't get paid. One time they even let the dog loose on her. Good thing the dog was smarter than his owners. A huge Rottweiler ran up to Kelly, who was white with fear, hugged her and moved away. Oh, get out of here and don't come here again, shouted the man, the owner of the dog, as Kelly then cried on her way home, not out of fear for herself, but out of resentment. Why are people so mean? And then the minute the dog attacked her, it went through her mind. What about Robert? He's alone, he'll wake up soon. And after lunch, Kelly went to work with a baby, and there was also enough negativity. Although in the form of a child, people reacted softer. Sometimes they even helped me put a better sticker on the paper. Yes, people are different. There were also understanding. In the evening, having fed and put her son to bed, Kelly sat by the window and thought when everything would change in her life, and whether it would change. Robert was already growing out of his stuff. Good thing Kathy had sent some new suits. At least she had something to wear out. By the way, Kelly didn't complain to her friend. She said that everything with Robert was fine, but in reality it was otherwise. One day, her part-time job on the internet completely stalled. The money from the stickers went to food. The doorbell rang. Hello, darling. In the hallway stepped a full lady of about 50 years, the owner of the apartment. I thought I'd drop by and see how you were doing. Kelly was confused when she saw the landlady. She hadn't been here since she and Kevin had rented the apartment. Kelly had been making regular payments on her credit card. Evelyn, this is so unexpected, mumbled the young mother. Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. The neighbors told me that you live alone now. You have a child. Did your fool leave you? I knew he was unreliable. Anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. Kelly, I'm giving you a raise this month. Don't get me wrong. Everything's getting more expensive, and I haven't raised the price in almost 3 years, and I have expenses. I bought a car, and it's eating up so much money. How much? Kelly blurted out. How much what the car costs? Oh, the rent. I'm not being pushy. I know you have a kid, but I'm raising the price by $5,000. If you don't like it, you can move out now. I've already got someone who's willing to pay my price. Where am I going to go? Barely holding back tears, Kelly replied, I'll pay. Good. Evelyn smiled. Okay, I'm off. So it's a deal. Kelly nodded. She had no other choice. But where would she get the money? And then, for the first time, she decided to call Kevin. She should tell him that he had a child. He was a father, Robert. He could help in some way. Kevin answered her call. A woman's laughter and a boy's laughter could be heard in the background. It was clear that Kevin was quite content with life. Need a hand? He hummed into the phone. I didn't talk you into having this baby. I thought you'd made up your mind. So you knew about the baby? Kelly was stunned. Yeah, your girlfriend came to me, appealed to my conscience. Why are you surprised? I told her then and I'll tell you again. I'm not sure it's my baby. It's interesting. You kept quiet all this time, and now you've suddenly decided to confess. Why would I do that? I'm just having a really hard time. I have no money. I have to pay the rent. Forgetting her pride, Kelly said with difficulty, You know, it's not my problem. You're on your own. And he hung up. Kelly sat there like a stone. Why did she call? She'd just ruined her own mood. And Kathy, she didn't say a word the whole time. I guess she just didn't want to upset her. Maybe Kathy should call Kathy, borrow from her, and then pay her back. No, her friend wouldn't say no, and she wouldn't demand it right away. But Kelly wouldn't feel comfortable. And what would she use to pay her back? And then Kelly remembered there was something that would save her and Robert. It's some earrings her mom gave her. Mom gave them to Kelly just before she left. She never wore them herself. Kelly didn't know they existed, and Mom kept them. Said Kelly's father gave them to her. They're very expensive. Maybe you'll need them when you have a daughter. Mom whispered and with a trembling hand pulled the earrings from somewhere in the nightstand and said they were diamonds. Kelly didn't believe it then, and she didn't believe it now. She thought they were just glass, but they were precious to her as a memory of her mom, and she never wore them, and neither did her mom. They lay in her notebook bag from university, in a simple box from under lollipops. What if they really were diamonds? The next day, out for a walk with Robert, in addition to glue and advertisements, Kelly grabbed the earrings. On the way, she stopped by a pawn shop with her son. Where did you get such a miracle? Surprised, exclaimed the appraiser, just looking at the jewelry and squinted suspiciously. Looking at the modestly dressed young mother and child, whose clothes were clearly already small. It was a gift from the late mom. Kelly replied calmly. It's easy to check, nodded the appraiser. For a long time he rummaged through his papers, then looked at the earrings. Finally he named a price and asked for a passport. Almost $100,000. To Kelly, that was a lot of money. She immediately agreed to pawn them. Young lady, do you have any idea of their real value? Asked the appraiser while the documents were being drawn up. I don't know. Kelly admitted. All my life I thought they were plain, glass ones. Glass? The man laughed. Come on, I can see you really need the money. Yes, I'll throw in another $30,000, but no foreclosure. Do you agree? In principle, Kelly agreed to the first option, and she liked the second offer even more. It was just a little embarrassing. She was selling her mom's memory, but she had no other choice. and her mom would understand, and she'd never buy back those earrings. The money from the earring sale was a big help. Kelly immediately bought her son some new clothes, paid off a small utility debt, and put aside a few payments for Evelyn. The young woman realized that she couldn't be lavish, or it would be even harder, and soon she got a call from the education department. There was a vacancy in the nursery, and it was a pity to give the baby to the kindergarten, and he is not even 2 years old. But what to do? We have to live somehow. So Robert went to the nursery and Kelly went to work. Only very soon the store management started to grumble. The young mom took 2 sick days every month. Who's going to work? Soon they said they didn't want any problem employees. Well, I'm trying. Kelly justified herself. It's just that my son has recently gone to kindergarten. Children are all small, often get sick when in a new team until he is not used to it yet. How long do we have to wait for your son to get used to it? No one will pay for your sick days. Quit. That's the answer. It was no use arguing with the bosses. Kelly stayed at home for a couple months, scraping by on the internet, and mostly pulled a little bit from the untouchable reserve that was left from the earrings. We had to live on something. She didn't work as a poster girl anymore. When she went to the store, she gave it up. Now there were other workers there. They didn't need her. But one day, she got a call from the real estate office. Kelly, good afternoon. She heard the familiar voice of the receptionist, Adriana. We'd like to invite you to an interview for a vacancy. What position? Boss looked at your resume and was very surprised that a person with a higher education is quite literate, worked for us as a poster boy. There's another offer for you. Would you like to try to work as a realtor? Yeah, I don't know. I never imagined myself in this role. It is not to sell buns and apartments, but the principle is the same. Adriana laughed. You have to praise your product, that's all. Well, will you come over? You know I have a small child. It will not interfere with your work. You can always arrange a time that's convenient for both parties. I convinced Adriana. The director of the real estate firm was Sebastian, an elderly man with serious health problems. He'd had a heart condition for years, and even surgery hadn't changed anything. All because he didn't have much desire to live. After his family, his wife, daughter, son-in-law, and grandson died in a plane crash 5 years ago. The only thing that kept him in this life was his work, the work of many years. He couldn't give it all up like that. That's why he was pulling it all on his shoulders. In principle, his office was not too famous in the city and could not compete with the big competitors, but it had its price too. Not so long ago, his realtor left for another firm, more successful. Sebastian was looking for a new candidate and decided to look at the resumes of those who were hired on a fixed-term contract. Interesting. He was surprised when he read the resume of Kelly, a young woman with a higher education. Why doesn't she get a job in her specialty? Yes, it's complicated. Adriana shrugged her shoulders, and she has a small child. Call her for sure. Sebastian, I repeat, she has a small child. So, call her. So Adriana called. Kelly arrived for the interview at 3 o'clock. Sebastian saw a very young woman, almost a girl, only very tired from everyday worries. He started the conversation from afar, asked about his son, about his studies, just about life. At the end of the conversation, he already roughly realized who was sitting in front of him. A simple little naive girl who got into a difficult life, but does not give up. Sebastian decided to give her a chance. He liked her, reminded him of his late daughter. Soon Kelly got a new job. Now she's a realtor. Of course, there were a lot of difficulties, had to learn a lot. At the same time, Robert was constantly sick, but the new team was sympathetic to this. And then Kelly was lucky. She was able to sell one apartment and the second one very favorably. Buyers liked to communicate with a nice, pretty girl, while Kelly was not intrusive in her work, but at the same time was able to persuade, although about the shortcomings of apartments did not hide. This honesty was what brought her to the table. Sebastian, too, was glad he had hired this girl. Kelly did her best. Little by little, things got better between her and Robert. Now the young mother did not count the change, whether her son tomorrow will have enough for milk or not. They weren't lavish, but they weren't poor either, and then disaster struck. Sebastian collapsed in his office one morning and died immediately. His heart was failing. Kelly was very worried. She had become attached to her boss in a kindred way, and also worried about the question of what will happen to their office. The distant relative who inherited the firm was not at all interested in its development. It was a man far from business. He considered selling the firm a very troublesome business and postponed it for later. He decided to just appoint a business manager and himself to continue to live quietly, receiving dividends. He is not a young man, and why should he have these worries, business, competitors, inspections, and so on? What was Kelly's surprise when she was asked to be the manager? But I haven't worked here for a year yet. There are more experienced employees, she told Christopher, to which he showed her a letter written in Sebastian's hand. In it he, addressing Christopher, wrote that it would be right if the firm is not sold, and Sebastian would like to give a chance to the young but very capable girl Kelly. She would pull his case. It had been a few hours of waiting. Kelly had already started to doze off sitting in the car when she saw the man she needed. Michael was a very well-known man in town, in his late 40s, looking quite decent, a tall, sturdy, brown-haired man. Kelly knew he was single, but that information interested her the least. She was concerned that this man was difficult to negotiate with, but she had to at least try. Michael. She called out to the man, stepping decisively out of the car. "Excuse me, would you mind giving me a few minutes?" The man stopped and looked in surprise at the fragile brunette in a business suit. A confident look, a ringing voice, and eyes straight black, almost gypsy. Yes, Kelly had interested him at first only in appearance. No, he wasn't a ladies' man, but he noticed beautiful women. And afterwards, when they began to communicate on business, sitting in his office, Michael appreciated how smart this Kelly was. An unknown whether by her charm or her ability to persuade, but Kelly achieved that Michael's company signed a cooperation agreement with their firm. But it didn't stop there. One afternoon, Kelly's phone rang. It was Michael, and he asked Kelly out on a date. She gave it some thought and said yes. Why wouldn't she? She really liked Michael. They sat in the restaurant, talked. Michael told her about himself, that he was born in this city, grew up, studied, and even got married, but he and his wife separated after a year. They didn't have time to have a child. He's been working alone ever since. And you too, I understand, a businesswoman. Michael asked with a smile. No personal life. Kelly was just about to answer. The nanny called and excitedly informed her that Robert had a fever and the medication wasn't working. "I'll be right there." Kelly answered and looked at Michael. "You'll have to excuse me, my son is sick. I have to go right away. Why don't I give you a ride?" Michael responded immediately. He was a little surprised that such a young woman already had a son, so she had a husband. He wasn't happy about that, but his mood improved when Kelly told him that she had been raising her son alone since birth. "Now you're talking, businesswoman," she grinned. "I've worked as everything, haven't I? And cashier and salesman, even was a sticker to feed my son. But actually, I'm a teacher by profession. I see. Michael nodded. You know, life is like that. You go through a lot of things before you find your own. I wasn't originally a builder either. You won't believe it. I'm a telecommunicator by my first profession. When my wife left me, accusing me of not earning enough and all that, I was so hurt. I began to think and decide what to change in my life in the first place to prove to my wife. I built a small business with a friend, and we got with him in the 90s. We were able to rise. Now I have what I have. I don't know about my wife. She went somewhere in Siberia to her parents. I think she got married and lives in some village. To be honest, I haven't cared for a long time. So they learned a little more about each other along the way. At Kelly's house, they said goodbye and arranged to meet again. Robert turned out to be fine. The doctor from the ambulance suggested a trip to the clinic in the morning just to be on the safe side. That's all. You must have eaten a lot of ice cream? The doctor squinted slyly at the boy. Yes, there was a bucket in the freezer. I ate almost all of it. Robert lowered his head. Son, how could you do that? I told you not to eat too much, Kelly exclaimed and looked angrily at the nanny. Emily slammed her eyes shut in fright. I'm sorry. I didn't see it. Kelly just waved her hand. What can I do now? It would teach her not to buy buckets of ice cream. Michael called the next day and asked how Robert was feeling. Yes, he was fine. Kelly smiled into the phone. His throat is a little red, but he doesn't have a fever. But he had the ice cream of a lifetime. It happens. Michael laughed. I'm calling to invite you and your son to the park for the weekend. Robert will be well by the weekend, won't he? I think so. Kelly was a little embarrassed by Michael's suggestion, but at the same time she wanted to keep in touch with him, and not just for work. So of course she said yes. And that weekend the three of them were at the recreation park, riding the carousel, Robert jumping on the trampoline, riding his scooter. It was a warm summer evening. They sat at a table in a street cafe and ate barbecue with pleasure. Real men like meat. Michael winked at Robert. What's with the ice cream, right, Robert? Uh-huh. The boy replied contentedly. It's good. Why only men? Girls can eat meat too. Kelly joked. No arguments, maybe another portion, and Michael moved his plate. Kelly, smiling, took a bite, though she had more. Michael smiled too. How much did he like this sweet girl? Yes, she was younger than him by a whole 10 years, even a little more, but he was easy and simple with her, straight native. And Kelly felt, for the first time in years, that she had a man by her side. And late that night, as Michael carried the sleeping Robert home to Kelly's house, the boy suddenly woke up and wrapped his arms around the man's neck. Feverishly, he whispered in her ear, Uncle Michael, be my daddy. Kelly was close by and heard everything. She blushed as red as a cancer. Michael smiled embarrassedly. Go to sleep, son. Suddenly, he whispered and gently laid the boy on the couch. And then they sat in the living room for a long time, not knowing what to say to each other. Each had his own past offenses and disappointments, and each was afraid to be burned again. But they were drawn to each other. No more than that. They felt each other, every fiber of their being. Kelly, Michael finally spoke. I know you've been hurt in the past, and you're afraid of something like this happening again, but I can't help myself. I close my eyes and I see you. I hear your voice. I want to be with you, to love you. I want Robert to call me Daddy. I want to go fishing with him, to the woods, to play soccer with him. Not soccer. Kelly smiled sadly, and then she smiled cheerfully. Let it be tennis or volleyball, or at least checkers. Whatever you say." And Michael hugged her and stayed in their house until morning. And in the morning, when Kelly woke up, she didn't find Michael around and was very upset. Oh, stupid! She berated herself. She knew she couldn't trust men. And still she had stepped on the same rake again. He left, got what he wanted and left. She was so hurt that she cried. And then Robert and Michael came into the room. "And here we were making breakfast with Robert," said Michael. "Why are you crying?" "No, I'm just crying." Kelly quickly wiped away her tears and smiled. "What about my housekeeper?" "I gave her the day off." "You don't mind a little housekeeping, do you?" "I just want it to be just the three of us tonight." "Come on, we're making pancakes. Right, Robert?" "Yes, Dad." Robert replied happily and jumped into bed with Kelly. "Mommy, I'm so happy today." And the boy clung to his mother, and Kelly stroked his head in confusion. Yes, she had always realized that her son lacked a father's love, but she had not expected that Robert would accept so immediately. Maybe the boy had just reached out of naivete. No, he's a very cautious child. He just felt Michael as his soulmate. And just like that, Michael came into their lives. A month later, Kelly and Michael were married. It was a big wedding. Famous people of the city had fun at the wedding. The local newspapers covered it. Kathy and Miranda were at the wedding, both with their husbands, and Miranda had a belly. Just a week after the wedding, Kelly got a call from an unknown number. "Good afternoon. My name is Charles." The man introduced himself. "Kelly, I read about you in the papers. Who are you?" Kelly was surprised. "The thing is, I recently found something that I gave to my favorite girl, Camille, a long time ago." "You know Camille? That's my mom. She's no longer with us. How sad." "I don't understand." "What are you talking about?" "The diamond earrings." "Kelly, let's meet you." "I need to talk to you." Kelly agreed, but she went to the meeting with Michael. What this man wanted, she didn't fully understand. But when they met at the cafe, it suddenly became clear. Kelly was facing her father. The resemblance was uncanny. Yes, Charles was already over 50, his hair touched with gray, but his features, his eyes. Yes, Kelly looked just like her father, and he looked at Kelly without taking his eyes off of her. "God, I can't believe it." Charles whispered. "Daughter, I don't know." Kelly was confused, too. They sat down at the table. After an awkward silence, Charles pulled out earrings. They were the same earrings that Kelly had sold at a pawn shop a few years ago. Thanks to them, she and her son had survived for a while. "Kelly, I see you recognize these earrings. I'm not going to ask why you sold them. I know it wasn't for the good. Just listen to my story," Charles said. He said that almost 30 years ago, he met a girl named Camille. They fell in love, but Charles' mom got involved. She was outraged that her son, a student of a prestigious university, got involved with a simple girl from the backwoods. Yes, Camille was not a stupid girl either. She studied at a pedagogical institute, but she had neither parents nor money. Why would Charles want such a bride? But Charles didn't listen to her. They even applied to the marriage building. And that's when Charles gave Camille a pair of earrings. This piece of jewelry had a story of its own. The fact is that the first husband of Charles's mother died when the son was not even a year old. Soon his mother married another man. Charles was, though, the first, but unloved son. He often lived with his grandmother, mother, and father for months at a time. So when he turned 18, his grandmother gave him earrings, the family jewel. It was actually customary in our family to give them to daughters-in-law, but I never liked your mom, honestly. Grandma confessed. So I procrastinated, and then my son died. So I've had the earrings all these years. I was waiting for you to get married, and then I'll give them to your wife. But I feel that I don't have long left, so I'm giving them to you now. You can give them to your sweetheart when you meet her. Soon Grandma was gone, and Charles kept the jewelry with him, never telling his mother. Then he met Camille and gave her the earrings. A month before the wedding, Charles had to go to a student conference in another city. When he returned, Camille was nowhere to be found. He looked for her, made inquiries, but nothing. It was later that he found out his mother had arranged it. Camille said he was marrying someone else, said some nasty things to her, and when Charles was looking for her, going to the police, the stepfather got involved. They didn't tell him where his Camille was. After the institute, Charles went on the party line, then got a job in the city administration. He married someone else. Charles didn't love her so much anymore, but she wasn't a bad girl either. Then his mother started to interfere again. That's when Charles had a fight with his mother once and for all. Only then she said that it was to her credit that Camille disappeared from his life. Charles decided that there was no point in looking for his beloved after so many years. He had a wife for a long time. Children never happened, but he and his wife lived normally and fought and reconciled. Everything happened. He just stopped communicating with his mother, although he still came sometimes to her house. The driver brought money and groceries. He couldn't abandon his mother, especially since his brother and sister lived far away. And recently he decided to make a gift to his wife Cindy, ordered a piece of jewelry, and there at the jeweler he saw those earrings. Their family value, the jeweler at first did not want to admit where he got this jewelry. Then he told him that he bought the earrings from a pawn shop in the city. Just in case, he even took the information about who deposited them in the pawn shop. That's how Charles found out about Kelly. Now he had no trouble finding out everything about the girl. It turned out that Kelly was the daughter of Camille. Charles learned, of course, that Camille had left the world, and then he saw the front page of the newspaper. And there was a picture that said that the previously unknown Kelly had married one of the richest businessmen in town. Charles immediately realized that his daughter was in the picture, and he saw her features. Yes, I immediately recognized the earrings that my mother gave me, admitted Kelly, having listened to the story. But it's still so unexpected, because my mother never told me anything about you. Camille was very proud. Charles sighed. I blame her and I blame you, Kelly. I know you've had a hard time in your life. It has been. Kelly nodded. But everything's great now. But I still can't believe you're my father. We should do a DNA test, and then there will be no doubt. Michael suggested. Kelly and Charles agreed with him. And 10 days later, the results came back. Yes, Kelly and Charles were related to each other. Charles introduced his daughter to his wife Cindy. The woman, who had never had children of her own, quickly found common ground with Kelly, befriended Robert. She took a liking to Michael. They became friends, and only one thought kept Kelly in suspense. The story Charles had told her about her mother reminded her very much of another story she had heard years ago on the driveway. The time when she had cried and didn't know where to go. One day, Kelly ventured to ask her father, "What is my grandmother's name?" "You never said her name. Was it Vanessa by any chance?" Charles stared at his daughter in surprise. How would she know? And Kelly told him the story of meeting an old woman and her bald cat. She still has that cat. My driver always freaks out when he sees it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Turns out we could have met a lot sooner. That's unbelievable. No, I can't believe it. I've been giving her money for all these years to do things in housekeepers, and she's been fooling young girls, but she's not doing it now. I hired her a housekeeper myself. Maybe it's another woman with a cat. Just a coincidence. Callie guessed. Well, let's not guess. Let's go. It's time for me to meet my mother. And it wasn't a coincidence. Same house, same entryway, apartment number 12. The door was opened by the same Vanessa. A little older, a little sadder, but she still had the same keen eyes. The same Tom in her arms, only older too. Charles, the woman gasped. Have you decided to visit your decrepit mother? You're not that old, Mom. Charles replied, but I've decided that it's time for us to put an end to this feud. Did you realize you were wrong? Vanessa threw her head back in victory. The cat in her arms meowed something sharp. I don't want to find out more about who was right and who was wrong. I just want you to meet your granddaughter. This is Kelly. The woman squinted her eyes. Kelly looked at her grandmother with a smile. She had long ago forgiven her for all the wrongs she had done to her. Her own grandmother stood before her. I've seen you somewhere, Vanessa said, puzzled. Of course you have. Kelly nodded. I bought the wrong vitamins for your Tom once. Vanessa froze at those words and then clutched at her heart. Yes, she remembered her lodger, who had run away from her so quickly. She was a stubborn girl like her father. Nothing happened to Vanessa. She was more playing. Though she was sincerely surprised that her son had a grown-up daughter. And most importantly, she already knew her. When Vanessa heard that Camille, the same Camille, was long gone, she thought for a while. She was silent for a long time, and then she said, I'm sorry, son. Perhaps I was wrong, and you, my granddaughter, forgive me. Charles hugged his mother. He had forgiven her long ago. They were family, and Kelly decided not to remember all the wrongs. We have to move on. Why touch old wounds? She introduced Vanessa to her family, and the old lady melted when she saw little Robert. Charles is small. She gave her verdict and kissed her great-grandson on the top of his head. Robert was delighted. He now had a daddy, a mommy, a grandmother and grandfather, a great-grandmother, and a bald cat. The boy immediately demanded that his mom buy him one. Oh, no, son. Callie laughed. Let me and Daddy get you a simple kitten. Why don't you like my Tom? Vanessa even took offense. I like him, but he's very unusual. Kelly confessed, and everyone laughed. Another year passed. Kelly and Michael were expecting a new addition to the family. Soon they would have another son. One day they were walking together in the park. Michael and Robert ran a little ahead on the path when suddenly someone called Kelly. She looked back, and it was Kevin sitting on a bench. Kelly hardly recognized him. Sloppily dressed, stubbled, clearly hungover. Hi, muffled, Kevin said and got up from the bench. I thought I was mistaken. I thought so too. Kelly replied, How are you? I'm fine, and you? Oh, it's all gone to shit. Jenna kicked me out, left me without a dime, and now I'm living in an abandoned house on the edge of town. Robert came running up to Kelly. Is that my son? Kevin's eyes lit up. No, that's my son, replied for Kelly Michael, who also came up behind the child and realized who was talking to his wife. Yes, I'm sorry, mumbled Kevin. I must have made a mistake. Kelly and Michael walked away, Robert leading the way down the path, Michael holding her hand gently. There was another life beating beneath her heart, and Kelly didn't want to look back. Yes, life, the game. Sometimes it feels like you've been defeated, destroyed, abandoned, but it only feels like that. It's only the first round. There's the rest of your life ahead of you, and it may happen that if you lose once, You win much more later.
Subscribe and click the bell. Miranda dreamed of her only son having a rich life. She herself raised him alone, working 3 jobs to support him adequately. She had always thought that the more she invested in him, the greater the return. No one had ever canceled old age, and she didn't want to grow old in poverty. Here, graduated from the institute, Mom will try to find you a decent job, and the bride you fall. Mom, what kind of bride? Besides, you know I love Lisa, and we're planning to marry her. Don't be silly, Lisa. I don't want you to live like your father and me. He couldn't stand the poverty and he drank himself to death. Well, that's where he belongs. He's always been a weakling. You're a strong boy. So I'm asking you to take a more realistic view of life and not get down on yourself. I'll find you a rich bride. I'll do anything for that. By the way, I already found you a job. It's a very big firm. Robert, you've probably heard of him. He's got branches all over the country. He's a very rich man with a daughter. She's handicapped. She was in a car accident with her mother when she was a kid. Her mother died, but her daughter survived, crippled. But that's okay. This is your chance, son. You don't have much time left to study. So right after the institute, you'll arrange everything there. Your job is to please the management. And then we'll get closer to our daughter. Mom, are you serious? Is that how you want me to live with a cripple? You think it's wrong not to live with a cripple, but to become a rich man. Believe me, this Robert would do anything for his daughter. He loves her very much and will do anything to make her happy. And he'll raise you up so you won't need anything. And I'll be by your side as always. I'll help you with advice if you need it. And your Lisa won't go anywhere. She'll be waiting. Besides, you can do anything for her. You'll buy her an apartment. And you'll go out with her. Or we'll think of something else. Stephen didn't really like Mom's plan. He planned that right after the institute, he and Lisa would start living together, rent an apartment, get a job, and then we would get married. But Mom, as always, decided everything in her own way. Lisa, my mom got me a job at a very big firm. Anyway, so far, our plans are a little off. Couldn't your mom get me a job too? I want to make good money too. I don't know, I'll talk to her. She's the one who made a deal with someone she knows, and she said she'd do her best. Well, you're my mother. You know, I know a lot of people, so she made a deal. Well, I'll be sure to ask about you. I'd love to work together. I'd always have you in my sights. You know how much I love you. I'd like that too. But I think your mom's got other plans that I can't get into. You know my mom. She wants what's best for me. But don't worry. We'll always be together. You'll see. I believe you. I just don't think it's going to be the same. Your mom is nice to me, but I can see she wouldn't want me to be your wife. A woman can sense that. No matter what I do, she doesn't like it. So I don't think we'll be together. Stephen was silent, but he realized he was wrong. His mom has completely different plans, and she really wants her son to become a rich man. She always told him as a child that when he grows up, she will do everything to ensure that they do not need anything. In fact, he didn't mind it himself. Didn't a rich life ever hurt anyone? Miranda met up again with her friend whom she had known for a long time. So, Sashenka, is there a place for my son at Robert's company? Miranda, I told you I'll do everything. Your son will work there. You can count on me. Of course, the position is modest, and the salary is small. But you understand, no one will hire him for a good job right away. And if he is clever, and I hope that your son is like you, he will not stay long in this place. He will quickly climb the ladder. Stephen, I think he'll do the right thing. He's a capable and intelligent boy. Listen, Miranda, as far as I know, you've known the Robert family for a long time. I heard he has a daughter with a disability. Yeah, it's a terrible tragedy. Only one daughter left alive. I don't know what happened there. I came to work there when it happened. You know, the kind of people they try not to talk about. But Robert adores his daughter, dusts her off. Kelly herself is a good girl, modest, kind, smart. She's graduating from college too, and most likely will ask her father to take her to his work. She's cool about the fact that she can't walk. She uses a wheelchair. I mean, what's the big deal? She's got security around her all the time, so they help her and there's no problem. As far as I know, her father didn't want her out of the house at all. He was afraid she'd be laughed at. You know how cruel young people are these days. But she insisted, and she made friends. In general, the girl lives like all of us. In fact, how else? With that kind of money and a colleague, you can live in peace, not like ordinary people. I understand, Miranda. There are so many different prosthetics nowadays. You see, she can actually get back on her feet. Plus, with their money, I don't think it'll be a problem. That's the thing. She can't have prosthetics. After the accident, she has serious problems with her body, with her heart. Trouble and stress is contraindicated. They've already checked everything. They've been everywhere, even to Germany. But everywhere the doctors said that she can't stand on prostheses. Her heart can't take it. Poor girl, so unlucky. She's not poor. Believe me, she's doing fine. Unlike you and me, even though we're healthy people, some people are lucky to be born with a golden spoon in their mouth. In our country, you have to work like hell to keep from starving. And if, God forbid, you get sick, it's a nightmare. There's not enough money for anything. Why are you so angry today? My Cindy happens to be asking for a new cell phone. Do you know how much it costs? So we had a fight about it. I'm raising her just like you raised your son. Where do I get that kind of money? I'm lucky with him in that sense. I've been explaining to him since he was a kid about the war and how hard it is for me. So he never asked me for anything. I guess you didn't talk to Cindy, and now she's all grown up and thinks you don't give her enough. So tell her to go to work, and she can buy her own cell phones. That's easy for you to say. She's a student of mine. How can I send her to work? I put up with it. She's doing the best she can. Sometimes I just don't have the strength. I understand. It's always like that with kids. It's okay. She's an adult. She'll soon realize everything, and better yet, she'll marry a rich man, and she won't know your dinner, and you won't be left out of pocket. You know what I mean? Oh, if only it were that simple. Don't be ridiculous. Cindy, you've got a girl with a college education. It's all in your hands. Besides, you know rich people. I never thought of that until now. I don't understand. Take her to different receptions, and she'll be noticed. Miranda left her friend satisfied with the result. She had learned everything she wanted for her son. For his sake, she would do anything. Her boy shouldn't need anything. He'd had enough bad luck in life, but now they'll be fine. The main thing now was that he should graduate. Kelly was sitting in her room as usual, reading a book. She had heard that her father was back from work, but he hadn't come to her room yet, so he was still busy. As soon as he is free, then they will definitely have dinner together like they always do. True, she had a serious talk with her father tonight, even though he was always trying to avoid it. Today she was determined to talk to him. As time went on, her father didn't show up, so she decided to go downstairs herself to ask him when they would have dinner. Everything in their house had been made for her, so that she could be in the rooms unobstructed and move about quietly, somewhere to pray. She found her father in the study, sitting at his computer, writing something. "Hi, I thought you'd forgotten about me. Turns out you're still working." "I am, daughter. My analytics department's all pissed off. They fired the hell out of everyone. They don't check at all. It's terrible what I pay their salaries for. I have to double-check everything in the field myself. Can I see it?" "Sure, come here." Kelly rode up in her wheelchair, looked in her father's computer. It was a mess. She immediately told him where it needed fixing first thing. And then she looked at her father with a satisfied look. "Dad, I've told you several times, let me help you. Besides, I like it myself. Take me to you after the institute, and believe me, You will never have problems with the analytical department again. I see, Kelly. I just wanted to save myself the trouble. You're a smart girl, and everything I'm doing right now is for you. I actually wanted to send you overseas to get some rest. Travel for work. You'll have time for that. But I'm watching you run things now. I feel like I need your help more than ever. I'm really glad you finally realized that. Now let's go to dinner. Not too hungry. They've been waiting for you for a long time. Come on, we're good. I'm pretty hungry myself, but you saw it. I had to figure out what they'd done to me. Dad, they don't check your data at all. That's a big mistake in analytics, but I've already realized that. Then you're gonna take over the department because I've got enough work to do. I'll send the data to your laptop for now, but when you graduate, you come straight to me. I'll even set up an office for you. I'll even have an office set up for you. Okay, Dad, now go to the kitchen. Or our Aunt Clara will be nagging again, because dinner is probably already cold. You're right, that's how our Aunt Clara is. It's best not to mess with her. But I think you stood up for your father, because I'm the one who's going to get the blame. Good, I have a way with her. I know how to calm down our angry Aunt Clara. What about us? You'll see. They walked to the living room, where the table had long since been set. For as long as Kelly could remember, they always ate dinner in the living room. It was their family's custom. In fact, she had nothing against it. "We're waiting for dinner," shouted the father, and looked at his daughter cheerfully. Soon, Slaga came in, grumbling that she had cooked everything a long time ago. Everything had cooled down long ago, and she didn't get up to reheat her masterpieces 20 times. "It's all your fault, Robert. Your job comes first. What am I supposed to do? I work hard. I cook, and you don't care about my labor. You're about to have a warming meal. You're pretty tasty. I'm always talking about what I've been pulling. This time I held up my dad, but I proved to him that in his job I'm indispensable. He's agreed to let me run his analytics department. So you can be happy for me. Kelly, so you're gonna work with your dad now, just like you wanted. Oh, that's great. Now, without further ado, let's eat dinner. Let's make sure everyone eats. I worked so hard tonight. I think it's delicious. You always make everything delicious. I promise my daughter, and I won't be late for dinner like this again. Okay, I believe you. Kelly, if you say it, it means it. The father looked meaningfully at his daughter, and she smiled her beautiful smile. How much like her mom was she? Especially when she smiled like that. How are things going at the institute? You're not seeing anyone. I've just noticed you've been different lately. Did something happen to you? No, I'm fine. I just really wanted to work for you, you know. I'm almost done with school. And then it just felt like there was no point. And then you were always against me working with you. I was really depressed about it. And I felt like you didn't need me. Don't be silly. But how could I not need you? I just wanted you to get some rest. Well, I've explained. But if my daughter wants to work, I'm happy to do it. So don't worry, it's fine. While you're still getting things done, like I said, I'll get your office ready so you're comfortable, but you're welcome there. I look forward to seeing you with great pleasure. Robert was pleased. He saw that he couldn't do without his daughter's help, but I didn't think his daughter would want to work for his company. After all, she's disabled. He was always afraid for her. It was especially scary to see how people looked at her with some pity, some anger. And his heart always jumped out in anger. But now he saw that his daughter had grown up, that she herself perfectly coped with all the hardships. And the fact that she is constantly in a wheelchair does not bother her at all. Besides, as she recently told him that the strength is not in the legs, but in the head, she's right. The next day, he gave the order to prepare the office next to his office. Many people began to murmur, realizing that he was doing all this for his daughter. Robert's secretary at lunchtime told her friends in HR in confidence, "Now we're gonna have a handicapped person working with us. Her daddy's going to arrange everything for her. Why do we need her here to feel sorry for her? You shouldn't say that, Vika. Kelly is a beautiful girl, and she's very smart. So enough with the slander and the talk. You better get on with your business. Besides, if your boss finds out, you won't last long. He adores his daughter. It's not her fault. What happened? It's nobody's fault. Besides, the girl grew up without her mother, who died in that unfortunate accident. So why feel sorry for her? She has everything. They don't need anything. Besides, she's used to it. She's probably a rich girl with a daddy like that. Plus, she's handicapped. I imagine Anna's all out of sorts and said stop talking and then you're on your own. If you don't stop talking, you'll be out of a job. You got me. Kelly sat on the porch of the institute, waiting for her friend Christina. They had been friends since first grade. She told her father about her then. He, of course, made inquiries, said that her friend's family was good, that her father was an engineer and her mother was a pediatrician. Christina's father was having a little trouble at work at the time, and Robert helped him. This brought the two girls very close together, and they were now going out together all the time. Kelly also wanted her father to take her friend to work with him, but she didn't know how to convince him. Kelly, you've been waiting a long time. Sorry, I was just picking up my notes from Bobrov. I'm sick of taking them into eternity and then having to run after them. I need to get them back. Why are you so happy? Did something happen? Yeah, I talked to my dad yesterday, and he wants me to work with him. I finally talked him into it. I haven't talked about me yet, but I think we'll find something for you. Maybe you shouldn't, Kelly. What? What if I can't handle it? And there's a lot of things we're grateful to you for. If it wasn't for you, I might have been expelled my sophomore year. You realize I'm weak in a lot of subjects. You're the smart one. I'm mediocre. My mom said it was a miracle I got in. I should have gone into teaching. That's my limit. Don't be silly. Your mom can be wrong sometimes. She's a doctor, but she doesn't believe in you. And that's her fault. Okay, Christina, let's go home. Aunt Clara's baking fascinated today. She told me to make sure you came. And I'd love to. But my mom's gonna be mad again. She always does. When I praise Aunt Clara's food, she starts nagging, saying that of course, if she had as much time as your nut, she'd make a masterpiece. But Dad and I know our mom can't cook at all. I see you guys are having fun. I think if my mom were alive, we have the same thing. Kelly, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. I mean, you know, I'm telling you about my family, and you're sad. But I'm not being mean. I know it's okay. It's just something I said. Did you go to Christopher the driver? He's waiting for us. Listen, Kelly, this Christopher of yours, he's single. I keep meaning to ask you, but I keep forgetting. He's not. Why do you want to know? Do you like him? I like him a lot. I like guys like that a lot. I mean, look at him, like he's on the cover of a magazine. I didn't know you liked guys like that. Do you want me to introduce you guys to him? Oh no, that's okay. Wouldn't you look at someone like me? You're being modest again. Chidge. Christina, you knew you had very low self-esteem. You can't do that. You need to rethink that. They got in the car and drove to Kelly's house. Christopher, then only Christina needs a ride back home. She lives far away. That way we can study for exams together. Study late. What do you say, Kelly? I'll do it. I'll drive her. Does he call you by your middle name? Did Christina giggle? That's what Daddy requires. The girls didn't speak again on the road. Kelly thought about what Christina had told her. She didn't know how to introduce her to Christopher, and thought that her friend would probably have a chance at that when he took her back home. It was just that Kelly herself had never had a boyfriend, and she didn't know how to get acquainted at all. She decided for herself that she was going to be alone, because she really realized that no healthy guy would want to be crippled. There were certainly some guys at the institute who picked on her, but she could see that their interest was not in her, but rather in her father. Miranda glanced at the time and frowned. The whole sun was late again, And she understood the reason why he was with his girlfriend Lisa again, and what he found in her that he just couldn't break up. It's not right. It's not his time. It was a shame that no matter how she explained it to her son, he didn't listen to her at all. Once again, he should have been home long ago, but he was still gone. Finally, she heard the front door slam. The son threw his keys on the nightstand and started to develop. "Hi, Mom. Why are you so glum? And you're still asking? We agreed with you that you after the institute immediately go home. But I see you don't care about my requests. You were with your Lisa again. Mom, I told you that I love her and that she's the girl I want. I thought you agreed with me. And we agreed that I would do whatever you told me to do. But she would always be there for me. You understand, son, the minute you start courting Kelly, her father's gonna start making inquiries about you. He's gonna find out everything. And that's where we're gonna get in the way. So think again. Talk to her and tell her that you need to break up for a while. But she has to understand. Okay, Mom, I'll talk to her. But you realize it's not as simple as telling her I have to marry another woman. How can I tell her it's all about the money? She wouldn't understand. She'll understand perfectly well. I've seen her, and I know this type of person. She'll do anything for money. So you can tell her. You'll see she'll agree to anything. Just don't tell her the truth. You can't trust women. Just say that you have to hit on a rich girl just to get a good position. Because if you tell the truth, everything will fall apart. Robert will be reported immediately, and we'll be left with a broken trough. And do you realize then that we'll lose time? Smart boy, and not only smart, but very handsome. So I think you can do it. The important thing is that Lisa doesn't get in your way. So weigh everything and think about what's more important to you. And also think that you're going to have a lot of Lisas. There was no Stephen. What to say to his mother? He himself had long dreamed of having a car. He liked the branded things he saw in the store that were out of his reach. Besides, who doesn't want to live rich? Even if it means marrying a coworker. Mom's so sure this girl will even want to talk to him. What if she has a boyfriend? What if she's happy? Here I am with my suggestions. I checked. Son, he's single. But you're right, Kelly. The girl's very smart, so don't expect her to jump into your arms right away. You think it's that simple. No. My dear, you're gonna have to woo her. And you're gonna have to woo her hard. You know what I mean? Because she's not going to throw herself at you right away without even thinking about it. So you're saying she might refuse me? Naturally. You're not as smart as I thought you'd be. You think if something's wrong with her, she should come running to you. No. She's been smartly provided for since she was a child. Never denied anything. It comes up, you'll believe it. She won't even pay attention to you. It's all up to you. If you want her to fall in love with you, you'll do whatever it takes. Well, you know what I mean. Because I've done everything for you. Now it's your turn. And please don't upset me. He didn't see that coming. For some reason, in his fantasy, everything was so simple. He sees Kelly, she sees him, and she agrees to marry him. And then he goes back to living the life he wants. But it's not that simple. Like his mom just told him, he didn't say anything. He went to his room to think for a while. First of all, he decided to take a closer look at Kelly. His mother had told him about her a long time ago, but he always thought it was nothing. But his studies were coming to an end, and that meant his mother's plan had to be put into action. He opened his laptop to look at the pictures of Robert and Kelly. He was very surprised that she turned out to be quite a nice girl with a very beautiful and gentle smile. For some reason before, when he heard about her, he thought she must be very ugly. He looked online at her pictures and thought it wasn't all bad. She's pretty and seems very naive, so it wouldn't be hard for him to get to know her better. Plus, he'll know what she likes and how to approach her. Mom's right about Lisa. You have to break up with her for this kind of thing, so she doesn't screw things up later. He regretted telling her about her plans, but he was smart enough not to go into details, and he has to have a serious talk with her tomorrow. But he still needed an approach to her that he couldn't think of. He went to Lisa's page to admire his girlfriend. when he saw that she had pictures of their mutual friend John. He didn't like that very much. He decided that this would be the reason for their breakup. In the evening, when he sat down to have dinner with his mother, he saw that she was waiting for a response from him. "I understand everything. Tomorrow I'm breaking up with Tanya. Believe me, everything you've done for me won't go to waste. So you can count on me." "Thank you, son. I knew you were a smart boy. Believe me, I'm not getting any younger every year. And that's why I want to live a normal life, thinking you'll do well." The next day at the institute, a happy Lisa came up to Stephen to hug him and, as usual, then dip him on the cheek. But he dodged, grabbed her hand, and took her aside. "Why didn't you tell me that when you talked to John? I realize we are friends, but I didn't think his picture would be on your social media page. Why didn't you tell me? So it's just a photo. Stephen, what's wrong with you? Would you like it if I had a picture of your friend? What would you say to me then?" "Stephen, but I didn't think it would make you so angry. I don't even remember when I had it there. But I felt awful yesterday when I saw it there. I also felt bad when I saw your heart emoticons. How do you explain that? That's how the press makes jokes before. You know John. And believe me, I didn't even pay attention to it. I don't believe you. You're obviously enjoying this. So just so you know, I don't like it at all. You got me." They nodded anxiously, glancing at Stephen. He needed her to be completely oblivious to that recent conversation when he had told her that his mother wanted to get him a good job. Just at that moment, John walked up to them and playfully pinched Lisa's waist. It was just what was needed. Stephen looked at Lisa with a frown. He didn't say hello to his friend, but silently turned and walked away. He smiled to himself, realizing that it had turned out even better than he had intended. John caught up with him, grabbed his elbow, and said, "What are you doing, friend? I just did it without a second thought. Believe me, I would never come between you and Lisa." There she is crying. "Why don't you explain what happened?" "I don't have to. So you stay out of it. Is that how you're raising her or what? Tell me honestly, are you my friend or not?" "Of course I'm your friend. I'm always there for you, and you know it. Now, Lisa cheated on me, and you'd better stay out of it." "Got it. How did Lisa cheat on you?" "There's no such thing." "What's the matter, Stephen?" "It's smudging. So let her suffer a little. It's good for her. Don't feel sorry for her. I'm afraid she's gonna turn on you. She's not as saintly as I thought she was. They change guys like gloves. I got proof. But I'm not gonna get involved in this mess. So you're just gonna have to take my word for it. I wasn't expecting that." "All right. Well, whatever you say, I'm always on your side." "How upset are you? What do you think? We've been together for so many years. It's a shame to know your girlfriend's not faithful to you." "I'm right. It's not nice. Well, that's okay. I'm looking at the world in a more cheerful way. We'll graduate soon. We'll go to work, and everything will be fine. There will be more beautiful girls." "I'm right." Stephen nodded, and they went to their classes. True, he felt a little bad at heart that he had done that to Lisa, but he had no other choice. Now he realized that his mother was right about many things, and he would have a lot of Lisas like that. And now he had to get ready to study. There wasn't much left. The first day of work at Robert and Stephen's company. He didn't expect such a big deal. Only now he realized how rich this man was. Very smart. Mom is right, of course. If he married Kelly, he would have everything. But he also realized that it wouldn't be so easy to marry Kelly. It's all in his head, as easy and simple as he thought it would be. Now he'd seen the seriousness of it, realized it wasn't that easy. Robert wouldn't give up his daughter. He would still have to fight for her, but he was not afraid of that, because he understood perfectly well that as soon as he became his son-in-law, all doors would open for him. That's exactly what he needed Mom to do. I didn't see that one coming, of course. Listen, thank you so much for getting me this job. I wouldn't have gotten a job there on my own. I'm thrilled. Now I know exactly what you mean. Well, Mom's got good advice. Listen to me carefully, son. It's all up to you now. Work hard to get noticed. Then another piece of good news. His daughter will work there too. I mean at this company. So that makes your job easier. But it's up to you. She'll be working there too. What's she gonna do? I don't know yet. A friend of mine told me today. The office is ready for her. I already know who she'll be working there. In the meantime, why don't you mind your own business? I hope it works out for you. It's working, really. Absorbed Stephen. He loved what he was doing. Plus, he was noticed as an excellent worker, and within 3 months he was promoted. Of course, not as big as he would have liked, but in 3 months to rise, even if only one step, it was already a result. You're good, son. You're a smart boy. I'm glad I raised a son like you. We're gonna make it. Did you find out about Kelly's? 'Cause I've been working there a long time, but I've never seen it. Have you ever seen Robert? No, not yet. He doesn't come into our offices there. And there's nothing for us to do in his office. So we're just going about our business. That's right. His daughter is with him all the time. So it's up to you. Boy, you try and you will succeed. And Stephen tried. He did everything he could to get one more step up to where the big money of the connection was, where he could finally feel like a more important person. Kelly arrived home, and the first thing she did was head to her father's office. She wanted to talk to him about her friend who would also like to get a job. Christina had called her in the evening and told her that her mom was sick, that she needed a large sum of money. But she can't do anything because where she works, the pay is very low, and she probably can't afford the medicine. Dad, I can come in. It's okay. No, daughter, you know you never bother me. I see something's wrong. Trouble at work. No, I'm fine there. It's something else. Remember Christina, who we've been friends with since college? Well, she's got family problems. I'd really like to help her, but I need money. A job or both. You can hear me out. So tell me, my aunt is very sick. She needs medicine. You know very well how expensive it all is. Christina and my father are working, but they don't have enough. They need treatment now, so I'm offering to help with money and work. She's a smart girl. Trust me, she can handle it. Let's help them, Dad. How can I say no to you? I'll talk to my deputy tomorrow. I think he'll take her in, get her a job. But don't worry about the money. I'll wire the money to her account. Just give me her card number and the amount. So don't worry about your mom. We'll help her. Kelly looked at her father with pride. She always liked how he was quick to solve problems. She had always dreamed that if she ever fell in love with a man, he would have to be like her father. Thanks, Daddy. I'll call her right away. Kelly dialed Christina's number and was very happy when she answered right away. So, send me your card number and the amount you need for your mom's treatment. Tomorrow come to our company and your father will give you a job there. Everything will be fine. Don't worry. Well, it's not right. When I told you about this, I didn't mean for you to help me with money. Believe me, I'm not friends with you for money, but only because it's a very good person and a great friend. Christina, don't worry. I know how you feel about me. I know you're not friends with me because my last name is Robert. So why can't I help you? Just because I can. I think if you were me, you'd do the same thing. Wouldn't you? Thank you, Kelly. You're the most wonderful friend I've ever had on Cindy. I'll get my mother's meds today, and I'll come to your company tomorrow. Believe me, I will do everything I can not to let you down. I'll do my best. A new girl came to the company. Stephen looked at her with interest and also thought that she wasn't bad with herself and that he wouldn't mind hitting on her. But then a coworker whispered to him that this very girl, a close friend of Kelly, she's her friend. I never would have guessed that because I always thought that people like Kelly had unusual friends. She's just a simple girl and she's cute too. They've been together since college. I'm having some problems in my family. So Kelly hustled up, told her father to bring her here. Well, it's up to them, but be careful with her. And there's no guarantee she won't rat you out to her bosses. You know what I mean. She's on the outs with them. But Stephen had other plans, and he decided to put those plans into action. Hi, my name's Stephen. I see you're new here. So if you have any problems, I'd love to help you out. You would. It seems like nobody cares about anybody here. And they look at me like I'm an enemy of the people. To be honest with you, he doesn't really like people who come in through favors. We were told you were the prodigy of our boss's daughter. That's why you're being treated like this right away. If you're nice to everyone, you won't see it go away anytime soon. Okay, thank you so much for explaining. Although Kelly did warn me that I would be treated this way at first. She's very smart. And when she says something, she's always right. How long have you two been friends? We met in college and have been inseparable ever since. I'll never forget the first time I saw her. She was so confused, and no wonder. People really looked down on her, like they'd never seen a person in a wheelchair before in their life. I didn't know who she was then, and I just felt sorry for her. Well, how do you walk? I drove her around. She was happy to accept my help. She's a lovely person. She doesn't look like the daughter of rich parents, and that's what I liked about her right away. She has a humanity that a lot of healthy people don't have. I read somewhere that disabled people are evil because they don't look like normal people, but Kelly proved otherwise. I've never met anyone so bright. Okay, I'm probably just repeating myself. It's just that I really do love her a lot. Now I have to get to work. If there's a problem, I know I can come to you, Stephen. Stephen nodded, went to his workstation. He was interested in their conversation. He was learning a lot about Kelly again. Although the fact that she was a kind and smart girl, he had heard many times before. When lunch came, Stephen stopped by Christina's to invite her in and in between to show her the dining room that was in the building. And it was made especially for the employees. The food there is excellent. I've never had food like this in a restaurant. Come on, I'll show you where it is. I'm sorry, Stephen, but I'm going up to Kelly's. She's so busy working sometimes, she forgets to eat, which, unfortunately, is not normal. So I'll try to get her to eat. If I do, I'll meet you in the cafeteria. Stephen left, and Christina folded neatly all the papers in order on the desk and went to Kelly. Her office was next to her father's. And in fact, the regular employees did not go up there unnecessarily. She knocked on the door and heard Kelly's voice. Kelly, hi. It's me. Let's go win. I'm starving. Besides, I've been told about your canteen so much that if we don't go, I'll starve to death. It's in your office. No, you don't want to do that. Of course we're going. I just haven't been going alone. I'd love to go with you, my friend. Tell me about your new place. No one's hurting you. Everything's fine. Don't worry about me. Besides, you know I'll never let anyone hurt me. I can always stand up for myself. I met this guy. Well, actually, he came up to me, offered to help me, said that if I do not understand something, I can safely turn to him. He's very handsome, by the way. Let me show him to you. I'm glad you're doing well. And I'd be really happy if you could make something work with this guy. Not a chance. Guys like them will never look at me. He'd rather look at you. Don't be silly. I've told you 100 times. You're a very pretty girl, so stop underestimating yourself. Stephen saw them as soon as they entered the dining room. Christina gestured Kelly over to the table in a familiar gesture. In doing so, she pushed back a chair to make her friend comfortable. The dining room became very quiet. Everyone looked only at Kelly. She, on the other hand, paid no attention to anyone. Stephen was also looking at her for the first time, and to give him credit, he liked her in person. She was really a very beautiful girl. Against her background, Christina looked like a pale moth. The friends were talking quietly about something, not paying attention to anyone. The waiter immediately ran up to him and immediately took the order. Christina was quietly telling Kelly something, and then she turned and looked at him with her big blue eyes. He realized that Christina must have been telling her about him at the moment. He smiled quietly and nodded. Kelly nodded back at him and looked away. Christina smiled and listened to what Kelly told her, then turned to Stephen and made an inviting gesture. Stephen didn't refuse. Every opportunity to get close to Kelly was important to him now. He grabbed his tray with his order and walked over to them. "Hello, Kelly Robert. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Stephen, but I think Christina already told you that. You can just go ahead." "Kelly is a pleasure, Stephen, and I'm glad you didn't leave my friend alone. I know how newcomers are treated here, so thank you again for your support. Also, you didn't know who Christina was or who I was. That tells me you're a kind, sensitive person." Stephen didn't bother to tell Kelly that as soon as Christina walked into the office, he had already been told all about her. Why dissuade him? Besides, Kelly's praise was very nice to him. "It's nothing. I didn't do anything wrong. Besides, Alice is a girl of character, and as it seemed to me, she doesn't need help or protection." The dinner passed in a friendly atmosphere. They talked quietly. And then when they finished, they agreed that now only 3 people would have lunch. When they got home, Stephen joyfully approached his mother and told her that he had met Kelly today. "How? Really? How did that happen? We had a new girl over. Turns out it was a friend of hers, and she introduced Kelly to me in the cafeteria today. Well, more like she introduced me to her. Whatever, Mom. Now she recognized me. And I recognized her. I don't think there's any rush. But I'm gonna take it slow." "Wrong, son. Just take your time. All in good time. Remember, you're gonna make it. You better tell me how arrogant she is." "Come on, Mom. She's a normal girl. It's, pretty cute. Not my type, of course, but I was actually pleasantly surprised. She's not a freak, and I think I can go after her now. There are some complications, though. She doesn't trust anyone, I think, because she realizes that she's handicapped and what a normal guy doesn't need. It's my job to prove to her that none of this is true, that it's just her speculation. I'm right. You're right, son. You're always right. Look at the situation. And most importantly, remember that you got to keep your eyes on her, thinking only of her, no other girls. I hope you didn't compliment that friend of hers, because I knowed you. She'll tell her Kelly, and then it's all gone. Don't worry, Mom, I did the right thing. I went over there just to help her. We had a conversation. Nothing too much. All I had with her was work. Besides, I didn't like her. She's kind of pale and not really my type either. So you don't have to worry too much about it." "Good, son. I'm glad you're a smart kid. I hope the ice is finally breaking. In a little while, you'll be the most powerful man in the world. In fact, who do you want to be?" But the key is patience. Stephen agreed with his mother. He would have to be very careful not to scare her off. But he knew he would succeed. It was not without reason that he had come to this for so long. Kelly was in her room. She had gone to bed early tonight because she was feeling a little under the weather. Not good with her for the first time. Her heart was cramping, and blood was spurting whether the hearth was the same or not. And it even seemed like she had a fever at first, but she knew her body well and saw that she didn't have a fever. What was happening to her? She didn't understand. This had never happened to her before, and it frightened her. The image of Stephen kept running through her mind. No matter what she did, he was always in her face. Had she fallen in love? No, it couldn't be. Not with her. They'd been talking for 2 months. Always the 3 of them. He, she, and Christina. True, in the evenings he wrote to her. They talked about different topics, and she realized that she was very interested in him, and as it seemed to her, he was interested in her. And yesterday he invited her to the park. She had been there a long time ago, as a child, when my father took me there. But she didn't like it there, because there were children looking at her, and she looked at them and envied the way they ran. Her father offered to take her for a ride too, but she refused. She didn't want everyone looking at her, and Stephen had offered to let her go. She didn't expect him to do that. Are you serious right now? Kelly, it sounds like I'm kidding. You're what? But you realize that I am. Kelly was going to say handicapped, but Stephen interrupted her. Oh, come on. This is the most beautiful girl in the world to me. You're beautiful, you're sweet, you're kind, you're very smart, and I really enjoy talking to you. So why can't I ask you out? And Kelly said yes. Her malaise must have been exacerbated by the fact that she was anxiously awaiting the results. Her father, as usual, never let anyone near his daughter. And if there were people near her, he would make inquiries about them. Kelly never said anything about the games, and if he did ask, she simply replied that they socialize as colleagues. She then told him that Christina had introduced them, and then when she was asked out and had to tell her father, because she couldn't just leave the house without him knowing. She remembers that then as a teenager she asked her father what was the purpose of this insurance. You see, daughter, I'm really worried about you, and I think you know that enough to understand what I'm doing. No, it's not enough for me. Remember when you once told me that we should always tell each other the truth? Well, now I see that you're lying to me. And then my father told me that the accident when her mom died and she became an invalid was faked. But he couldn't prove anything at the time. But after that, he guarded his daughter like the apple of his eye. So she had to tell her father about the date. He was surprised. He didn't say anything, just nodded. And she realized that Stephen would be scrutinizing. She resented that, of course. But on the other hand, she understood who they were, and she'd seen how people sometimes went crazy over money. She thought her father wouldn't come home this time, but she was glad when she heard the sound of a car pulling up. Soon he knocked on the door of her room. You're awake. I'm glad you waited for me, but don't keep me waiting. Can you please tell me what you found out about Stephen? Well, I didn't find out much. He has no father. His mother brought him up. He's never had a criminal record and has never been involved in anything bad. In general, a positive character, which, frankly, scares me a lot. But I guess the mom did her best. She didn't want her son to get involved in different stories. Actually, she did well, did the right thing. Studying at the institute, met with a girl, but then they broke up. As it turned out, he could not tolerate the fact that she cheated on him. But according to the girl, this never happened, and apparently she was slandered. At the moment works in my company, does not meet with anyone. Anyway, I've told you all about him in a nutshell. Enough. Kelly shrugged. What did she have to do with it? She be happy and don't know all that information about him. What do you think about all this, Dad? I'm allowed to go out with him. Do you want to? Kelly's daughter nodded and blushed. But I don't mind. He seems like a smart guy. He's good at his job. I think he might even get a promotion. He's young, but he's got a good head for the job. So you're not going alone. You'll have a guard with you. Got it. Who else is going? Christina and Stephen's friend. I think his name is John. I've got some information on his friend, but I don't think you're interested. By the way, he's been in a couple of bad situations, but it's no big deal. He seems like a regular guy to me, and I respect that kind of guy. I was like that myself when I was younger. But what about Stephen? I'm a little concerned, of course, but I don't mind having fun. Have a good weekend. Stephen looked at his watch and worried. They'd had a long talk with his mother today. He had told her that he had asked Kelly out on a date, but it was too soon to be happy. Of course, he needed Kelly's father's consent, so he waited with bated breath. As time went on, Kelly didn't call or write. He already thought that most likely her father found out something and forbade her to communicate with him. What should he do then? What to do? Had he lost everything? Maybe he's in a big hurry. Maybe he started this whole thing too soon. He probably should have waited a couple more months. He decided not to wait. So in his opinion, enough time had passed. What if this was the end of it? He chased all those bad thoughts out of his head as best he could, but they persisted. Suddenly, his phone beeped, and he realized it was a heart-stopping text message. He opened his phone and breathed a sigh of relief. Kelly, sorry it's late, but it's still on for tomorrow. He and Christina will drive themselves to the park. It was a victory. He rushed out of the room and ran to his mother. "What son?" asked his mother anxiously, obviously having heard him rushing to her. "Mom, we did it. You'll see a little more, and we'll have a wedding. Now I'm sure of everything. I'm so glad, my darling. You'll do so well tomorrow. Please be most considerate and gallant. A first date always makes a lasting impression on a girl. Do you understand me? I'll do everything right. You know me." At 12 o'clock, John arrived at Stephen's house by car. His friend on the phone last night asked him to go out with him. "What does that have to do with me? Or can't you take a girl out on a date by yourself?" "Don't be ridiculous. She's not going out alone. She's going out with her friend. So please support me. Has our Stephen really fallen in love in his life? I haven't heard you talk me into it like that, have you? Well, tell me more about it. Who she is, she's so beautiful. John, you wouldn't understand me. And I'm not gonna say anything. Just tell me if you'll support me or not. But of course, when we don't support you, well, but for keeping quiet all this time. I resent you. I mean, you and I used to share everything. And then you got a girlfriend, and I still don't know anything. I didn't realize what happened to me at first. But that's beside the point. Listen, John, please, when you see her, please don't make any jokes. You got me. You're scaring me. Is there something wrong with her? You'll see tomorrow. Now, good night. See you tomorrow." And so they drove together in the car and didn't say a word. John saw that Stephen was thinking about something, but he didn't want to ask his friend anything. He must be really serious, because he had never seen him like this before. They pulled up to the park. John and Stephen got out of the car. There they are by that black car. I don't get it. Is she with security or something? Yeah, because I asked out the daughter of the man I work for. Robert, right? John, please don't make that face. It's not necessary right now. Besides, everybody's looking at us. She's gonna have a friend with her. So your job is to make her like you. Do you understand me? Because she's probably gonna have to go on dates with her first. They came over, and they said hello. John immediately noticed the beautiful girl in the wheelchair. She reminded him of a flower, just as beautiful, unwelcoming. Standing next to her was apparently her friend. They introduced themselves to each other and walked to the park. John Christina did not like her. He didn't like girls like that at all. He couldn't stand blondes. Kelly, on the other hand, was probably his type of brunette with beautiful blue eyes. It was so beautiful that when she looked at him, he was speechless because he couldn't take his eyes off her. "You girls are so quiet. It's not like we're in the park. It's like we're in some horrible place," said John cheerfully to lighten the mood. "It's just been so long since I've been in a public place that I don't even know how to act," Kelly said. "It's weird. Maybe I'm going to ask a stupid question, but I want to hear you say why you're a normal girl. You don't have anything that would turn people away from you. Or is there another reason?" Stephen pushed his friend to the side, showing him that he was prying into his own body. But Kelly still answered John, "Is it for you? I'm a normal person, but to a lot of people around me I'm not. They try to get around me and the other way around. It always feels like I'm a leper. This I met very often on my way and realized that it is better for me not to see it, so I tried not to go anywhere. Well, that's enough sadness. Let's have some fun. That's kind of what we came here for. Kelly, you've been on the Ferris wheel. You want a bird's eye view of the city. I haven't. How are we gonna do that? You're about to see it. John, go get your tickets. We're gonna show Kelly around." Kelly never had such a good time as the day they rode the Ferris wheel. Then Stephen took her on the carousel. She didn't agree to go on the other rides herself because she honestly admitted that she was scared because she had health problems. Then it was John's turn to ride with Christina, and Kelly and Stephen watched from the sidelines and ate ice cream. Kelly also remembered all the times Stephen would take her in his arms to put her on the merry-go-round or in the cab of the Ferris wheel. She couldn't explain how she felt at that moment. It felt really good. Kelly and Christina rode in the security car. John took Stephen home. "So how did you like Christina? Did you like the girl?" "But you know very well she's not my type." "But I liked today. The girls are very interesting, especially Kelly. I thought there was no one like her in the world anymore." "That's with the brakes. She's my girlfriend. You get it, you get it. I'm not gonna beat her off just by reasoning with her. Although, believe me, if I'd met her sooner, you wouldn't have a chance." "What makes you say that?" "I can tell she likes me." John didn't say anything. As he dropped Stephen off outside the house and drove to his house, his thoughts returned again to Kelly. He really liked this girl, but he could see that she only had eyes for Stephen. He didn't mind, and he was even happy for his friend. Just didn't like the whole thing. Be that as it may, and Stephen he had known for quite some time, and realized that he would never marry someone like Kelly. Besides, he would never even socialize with such people. And here he was, right here, he wouldn't leave her side. And that was very alarming. Stephen realized he couldn't wait any longer. He'd been seeing Kelly for 3 months now, and he was getting bored with it. He needed more of what he'd been going for all along. And his mom was getting impatient, saying it was probably time to propose, or someone else would show up. And then they'd steal her away from Stephen. And he didn't want that. So he decided it was time to take drastic measures. So he invited her to a restaurant. After that meeting in the park, Stephen was reassigned. He started earning more money and was finally able to buy a car. Now he drove Kelly everywhere by himself, and they didn't take John or Christina with them. So he called Kelly today and told her that he had a serious conversation with her and that he was taking her to a restaurant. "I don't like those phrases. It's scary," Kelly replied quietly as she listened to Stephen. "Don't be scared. It's okay. I just missed you. That's why I said that. Don't worry. I beg you." "Well, okay then. Tonight I'll what?" "Before the date, my mother and I went to the jewelry store to buy a ring for Kelly. They argued for a long time, but then they decided. And finally, the ring was in his pocket in a velvet box. Son, don't forget that even if she agrees, we have to ask for her father's hand in marriage, because you know he's a serious man. So we need to impress him. If you can do that, you can imagine how you will fly. He will immediately move you to a higher place, because it is not proper for the husband of the daughter to engage in inappropriate activities. As far as I know, Kelly herself is head of analytics. Smart girl, my ass. Who'd have thought it? She's really smart, if only she wasn't a cripple. Doesn't make any difference to me, though. I don't like her. She's not my type, you know. I prefer blondes, not like her. Just my son. The main thing is that she doesn't realize you don't like her. If she does, it's all over. You know what I mean. I understand perfectly. Don't worry, I won't let you down. There's a reason I've been through so much, and I know there's no turning back." Christina was in Kelly's room and watched with burning eyes as her friend tried on her wedding dress. "Wow, that's gorgeous. You look beautiful in it. Who's the groom's date for the wedding?" "John." "John, of course. And you're on my side. How are things going with him, by the way?" It's not. He's made it very clear that I'm not his type. I really liked him a lot, though. I think I'm gonna give it another shot at your wedding. Maybe I'll get lucky. What do you think?" "Christina, but there's a lot of focus on him. I mean, there's plenty of other guys out there." "Well, he doesn't like you, that's fine. But he's not the only one. You know, it seems like everything, it seems like it's not. But sometimes, you're attracted to him. He's a really nice guy. When I'm with him, for some reason I always feel protected. I guess a girl needs that. It's just a shame our feelings aren't mutual. It makes me very sad. By the way, I've always wanted to ask you, where will you live after the wedding in this house? Dad said it's my house, and that's where I should stay. I actually agree with him. I'm very happy here. Stephen doesn't mind. He agrees. He said they like it very much too. Yeah, it's really nice here. Are you going on a honeymoon after the wedding? Of course, my father's arranged something for us, but I don't know. I was told it was a surprise. Stephen seems to know, but he won't say anything. And I don't insist. It's better to be a surprise. Christina, I still think I'm dreaming. I always thought I'd never get married. I don't think I'd ever be noticed by any guy. And then there's Stephen, and he's so handsome. Come on, you're very handsome too. I mean, look at you. You're just stunning. Stephen saw that and fell in love. That's right. I really want you to be happy. Kelly looked at her friend, thinking that they would be happy with Stephen, and thought that nothing could interfere with their happiness. Stephen arrived home and went straight into the kitchen. He looked at his mother glumly but said nothing. Son, I see you've got something going on. You won't tell me. I'm fed up. I can't stand it. To tell you the truth, I can't look at my wife. I'm so sick of her, but I can't stand it. And she's so right, so smart. She makes me sick. You know, and I can't do anything. Unless it's with her, I'll lose everything. And I didn't work so hard to lose everything. What am I gonna do? Help me. Don't even think about divorce. Besides, Kelly's a beautiful girl. I don't understand what else you need. You have everything. You don't need anything. What do you need, son? I like another girl. I'm getting serious with her. You see, I love her. You see, I'm young, I'm handsome. Shouldn't I be happy? Why should I have to live with an invalid and suffer like this? Is that what you raised me for? You see, son, don't you feel bad? You're the richest man in the world now. You can afford anything you want, and because of your love, you'll lose everything. Do you understand? Just understand. Money doesn't come easy to anyone, and you just married a millionaire's daughter and still managed to complain. I see you've stopped thinking. Everything was fine, but you've gone off the rails. If your father-in-law finds out you're having an affair, he'll never forgive you. You know what I mean? And even here, I can't help you. I understand all that. So I came to you for advice. What do I do? What do I do? Miranda got up from the table and went to the window. She was silent for a long time, apparently thinking about something. Stephen looked at his mother and waited to see what she would finally say to him. I understand, and I share your feelings. To be honest, I haven't been lucky enough to be happy in my life. I don't want you to repeat my fate, but what I'm about to offer you is very serious. And think about whether you're capable of doing it for your own happiness. Mom, you know me. I'm always willing to go the extra mile if it's really worth it. All right. Chuckles, are you willing to wait a year to be a really happy person? A year? Why not a year? Why don't you tell me if you're willing to wait a year? I think so. If it makes me happy. Then listen carefully. It's been a long time since you and Kelly went on vacation. Besides, she's used to your luxurious life, so you suggest she go somewhere in the woods, in the country, where there's no civilization. For example, to live in a tent, to fish in the river. There's not much to do in nature. I think she'd like that. Besides, as far as I understand, with you she feels protected, so she'll go along with anything. So when you get there, you should take a good look around the area. See if there are people around, so that there are no witnesses. And then just throw her off a cliff or into the river, presenting it as an accident. Do you understand me? And the most important thing is that I don't say anything about this vacation right away. Just give her the idea that she would like to go to the nature, so that no one would guess anything. Stephen's silence. He was thinking of making an accident for his wife, but he didn't know how. But his mother had explained it all so well that he knew he would do it. All he had to do was talk Kelly into it, because he knew she wasn't a nature lover. Stephen met up with John just before he left for vacation. They sat down in a cafe to talk for a while. But how are you doing? I haven't heard from you in a while. I'm fine. I just thought since you're a family man, you shouldn't be distracted. Oh, come on. I'm tired of being a family man. I'm exhausted. Oh well, you wouldn't understand me anyway. You're a single man. Explain it to me. I just thought you liked Kelly, and now something's wrong. Don't worry about it. I'm just saying that. Listen, my wife and I are going on a camping trip. I want to teach her how to fish, how to live in a tent, and show her how good it is out there. We'll have a vacation together, and things will get better. I always thought you hated the outdoors. Besides, why go there with Kelly? You know, she's a little different from us. It would be hard on her, only it's not my idea. It's hers, so you have to do it. You know, she's used to getting everything she wants. Now I'm her husband, and I do all her whims. John frowned, because he knew that Kelly was nothing like Stephen was describing her now, although he just maybe didn't know her enough. Or maybe she acts so incomprehensible to him. Although he had talked to Christina back then, when they were still on a date together. She was telling him about Kelly, and he'd heard nothing but good things about her. How kind, smart, fair. That's when he drew his conclusions about her. And he watched Kelly himself, and came to the same opinion that she's a wonderful person. And then he hears from Stephen not at all flattering comments, and what to think now he didn't know. Although, looking at his friend, he saw that he became some kind of wooden, angry. Everything irritated him, and he didn't like it at all. When you're going, I'll see you again. Yeah, if only at the end of the week. Because we're all set for next Monday. Let's move. John was fine with that. He hated not understanding things. He saw that his friend was nervous for some reason, and he didn't like it at all. And for some reason he felt uneasy, and he knew that this uneasiness had something to do with Kel. Then he decided to follow Stephen a little. The father looked at his daughter anxiously and did not share her optimism. You don't know what you're talking about, you nature. Two things are incompatible. I'm worried about you. Besides, we decided to go alone. What the hell is that? Dad, I didn't get it at first either, but as it turns out, it's not far from here. So don't worry about it. And it's connected. You're talking to me like I'm going to the jungle, but that's not where I'm going. Oh, I see. Why do you want to go to the wilderness? I don't know. I saw a movie with Stephen the other day. They were making soup, and he told me that he and his class used to go camping. And they made soup just like that, and that he would never forget the taste. So I wanted to. You know, I've never tasted anything like it. He went to his daughter and hugged her. It was true, his girl had not seen a lot of things in her life, and how happy he was for her now, seeing that she was living a full life. And he, in turn, would do anything for her just to make his daughter happy. John was already on his second day of driving around town for Stephen. He took a special day off. I don't know why he'd do that, but for some reason he had an uneasy feeling that Stephen was up to no good. By the end of the second day, he decided that he would not follow his friend anymore because he was only traveling for work. But by the evening, he saw what he probably expected to see. It shook him up pretty badly. He was glad that on Saturday they would meet again, and then he would ask him what he wanted after all. And if it was true, he'd better get it all out of his head before it was too late. Kelly happily gathered herself for this dreamy walk. Christina looked at her friend anxiously. I don't know why they had to go into the woods. I mean, really, Kelly, what's gotten into you? I'm sorry to say these things, but this isn't the city. It's hard for a man with legs, aren't you? I'm sorry again, but I'm really trying to understand you. It's no big deal. We'll take a romantic camping trip. Have you ever heard? I've never been outdoors, and I really want to. Plus, you're like my dad. What are you so worried about? You'd think I'd be leaving home hundreds of miles away. And this is right next door. Stephen showed me on the map that it's close to here. You can check it out for yourself. Yes? And then there's cell service. So call me every day, and I'll let you know how I'm doing. I know it's hard for Stephen to listen to me talk sometimes, so I'm gonna tell my impressions to myself. And Christina frowned. It seemed to her that when Kelly talked about Stephen, she became sad. She wanted to ask her friend if everything was normal in her family life, but she didn't because she knew that if Kelly wanted to tell her something, she would have done it. John never got to meet Stephen. He said he had a lot of things to do and couldn't get out for meetings. And on Monday morning, he left with Kelly for the woods, and for some reason John didn't like this idea, though he couldn't understand it himself. Why? Kelly excitedly looked around at the birds that were hovering around her. There was some rustling, and she turned her head with delight, looking at them with interest. Stephen assembled the tent with a smile, watching his wife. "Stephen, what's that strange knocking?" "It's that, uncle. There are many of them. They are the sanitarians of the forest. If it weren't for them, many trees would be dead by now." "What's that cracking noise? Is it so strange? It doesn't sound like a rhinoceros. It's a grouse. There's a lot of them here too. It's a protected area, and all birds and animals are protected. And there are bears here." "There are, but they don't come here. We're not in the middle of a protected area after all. I know we can't take any risks, but this is perfect. So don't worry. There won't be any animals attacking." When night fell, Kelly couldn't sleep for a long time. She tried to lie down, but she realized that wasn't the point. She was constantly distracted by some rustling, some fussing. She was a little scared. But then she looked at Stephen, who had been asleep for a long time, and calmed down. If her husband was calm, then she needn't worry at all. And toward morning, when she finally fell asleep, she had a strange dream. Her husband was pushing her into the abyss and smiling at her. She couldn't believe what was happening. Then, as she began to fall, she woke up screaming. Stephen looked into the tent and smiled. "Finally, I thought I had you sleeping all day. You know how people are like that when they get to the countryside. They want to sleep. My mom used to tell me she had a friend like that. It was impossible to go out with her. She'd lie down and sleep. That's what the fresh air did to her. How are you feeling?" "I'm fine. You look a little pale. I just had a bad dream. You know, I was really scared. It's just the new place has got to you. All the excitement, the noise. You're not rested." "I had a stupid dream too." Kelly washed his face in a very unpleasant way. "I seem to remember the whole dream, and it felt like it was real." She saw it so clearly. It was very unpleasant. "I made some coffee and we went fishing. I found a beautiful spot. You'll love watching me fish." They had breakfast, and then Stephen took the fishing rods and rolled the baby carriage. Kelly to the river. She could hear her because there was a noise coming from there. Apparently the river was fast, but Kelly couldn't see it from behind the trees. Besides, she couldn't swim, and she didn't like water at all. She had always had a fear of water. Soon the trees parted, and she saw the river, not very wide but still fast. They found themselves on a platform that ended in a cliff. She was frightened and looked at Stephen. "So you're afraid your baby carriage will roll? Don't worry. I've got it all figured out. I'll put it where you can see me fishing and not get hurt." Kelly smiled and felt a little calmer. She began to admire nature again and look around. Suddenly, she thought she saw someone hiding in the distance. She could have sworn that she could even feel the eyes on her. But then she thought that it was probably her imagination playing tricks on her after the night. And then carefully, looking again at the spot, she saw nothing else. Stephen cast the rod, and she began to watch with interest. Soon he caught the first fish. She didn't know what the fish was called, but she didn't care. She watched it with delight as her husband placed it near the stroller. Then he cast the rod again and caught a small fish again. She was having fun. Kelly was oblivious to everything. Watching the fishing for the third time, she caught a big fish, and she saw that her husband was having a hard time pulling it out. "Mash, I need a net. I can't get it out this way. Help me." "What should I do?" "Just take the net. It's not far from you, and give it to me. Don't be afraid of anything. There's no tablecloth down there. I'm watching you." Kelly quickly picked up the net and wheeled the wheelchair over to her husband to hand it to him. But then she saw Stephen put down the rod and turn toward her. It was as if time had slowed down for her. She didn't realize what he was doing, and he just took her by the stroller, pulled her up to him, and looked into the classrooms. "But what is it, sweetheart? It's time for you and me to say goodbye. If you only knew how bored I am with you. I want to live my life. You know, love who I want. I never even liked you. I married you for your money. Well, now it's goodbye. It's over. I'm finally rid of you." Kelly looked at Stephen in horror, remembering her dream. But how? How is this possible? He was her husband, her favorite person, the one she was happy with. And he was unhappy with her. So he was faking it. But what does it matter? What is she thinking? She's going to die anyway. She can't save herself in water like this. She can't swim. Besides, half her body doesn't work, and she can't do anything. And that's when Stephen pushed her down. The last thing she saw was him smiling. Robert couldn't find a place to go. Rescuers had been working for the third day, but Kelly's body had not yet been found. "Believe me, we'll do what we can, but it's possible she was carried away much faster than we think, and we need to widen the search. Anything could have happened. Maybe she got sucked into some kind of whirlpool. Or is she lying on the bottom right now? Get the right divers. Get the right divers. Get whoever you want. My daughter. Find her. I'll pay you. Only, please, my children, her." He looked at his son-in-law, who walked with a pale face. He felt sorry for him. After all, the first thing he had done was to attack him without realizing what he was doing. But Stephen stoically endured everything, realizing what a grief it was. Besides, he himself rushed after her, only he could not understand where she had gone. They found the baby carriage not far from where they were fishing, but Kelly's body was gone. John drove over to Christina's house to talk to her. She happily came out to him. "I really don't know what it's about. Hi, Christina. Long time no see. How are you doing? Everything okay? John, what brings you here? I need to talk to you. Listen, you were at Kelly's the other night, before they went on that camping trip, right? Yeah, and you didn't notice anything weird? I mean, maybe Kelly was scared or sad." "No, everything was fine. She was happy and so excited to go on a nature trip. And then this happened. I still can't believe it. I feel sorry for Robert. He's been so down since his daughter died. He's not like himself." "Why do you ask?" "It just came to me. I'm still in shock myself." "You're right. But wait, I did think Kelly was hiding something from me. And it's about Stephen. I don't know why, but I felt like I didn't have to ask her anything because I knew my friend so well. If she doesn't want to talk, there's no way she'll say anything. I thought I'd talk to her after the trip. And you see how it turned out." John nodded. In fact, that was all he wanted to hear. He got into the car as he saw that he had a missed call on his phone. Looking at the screen, he saw that Stephen was calling him. It had been a long time since they had talked. He didn't insist, realizing that he didn't really care about him right now. "Stephen, hi. You called me, but where have you been? Friend, I've been waiting for you to call. But you've completely forgotten about me. I just didn't think you cared about me. You can't stop grieving, though. But what's happened is that I'm going to die of sadness. We're all mortal. Today we are someone else tomorrow, vice versa. So you have to live and enjoy every day. Listen, let's go to a restaurant tonight. I'm sick of everything. I want to relax a little. Okay, let's do it. What time? Let's make it 6 o'clock. I don't have anything to do. I'm afraid I won't have time. I could go out of town for work. Let's make it 8. I think I'll be done by then." John wondered why Stephen suddenly wanted to go to a restaurant. If it were him, he'd probably be pining for Kelly. And nothing in his life would make him happy anymore. Stephen's doing fine. He moved on. He didn't care about anything else. He was free. He didn't get home until 8 o'clock, as he'd hoped. He barely made it home in time to shower and change. At exactly 8 o'clock, he pulled up to the restaurant Stephen had told him. Someone was sitting at a table drinking cognac. I was afraid you weren't coming. I called your phone again, but it was unavailable. I told you I went to the country, and there's no reception there. It was just a work thing. We're building a small factory there, so I have to go there all the time to check what's going on. Realizing you don't have a good job, I'll get you a job at our company. My father-in-law will do everything for me. All I have to say is you'll make a lot of money. Besides, I'm gonna get it all soon. Kelly, my girlfriend's smart. She even left a will, and I'm the full owner of her stock, her share of the company. So I'm a rich man, and I put in a good word for you. Besides, I need my own people in the company. I'm tired of dealing with my father-in-law's men. It's time for me to get my own people. Not yet. I've got 6 more months to go, but I think I can do it. But what about you? Are you in? I'll think about my offer, but I'll give you an answer later, because I can't let down my boss, with whom we have a contract. When the construction is finished, we'll talk then. I think it'll be finished in 6 months. By then, I hope you haven't changed your mind about taking me in. I haven't changed my mind. You're my friend. If you knew, John, how sometimes I wish I could talk frankly, only I can't. And I have a lot to say. John could see that Stephen was a little drunk and decided to push him a little on the subject he was so interested in. Namely, what had happened on the cliff. He didn't believe it was an accident. You know me. You can trust me with anything. I'll always listen to you. I'll even give you advice if you need it. You see, I'm in love, and it's so hard not being together. I think about her all the time. I can't sleep. I can't eat without her. Can you tell me what to do? John frowned. He hadn't expected that from Stephen. I understand, Stephen, but you said yourself that you have to move on. Kelly's not coming back, and that's why. What's Kelly got to do with it? I never loved her. I only wanted her so I could live like this now, so I could be rich and not think about tomorrow. I'm talking about Sophia, you know. As soon as I saw her, I fell in love with her. But my father-in-law's always on the lookout, so I've been seeing her on the sly and in secret. Now she wants me to marry her, and I have to keep mourning for another 6 months, but I'm afraid that doesn't suit her. And if she doesn't wait for me, what am I supposed to do? Then she's not your woman, and she doesn't love you. Cold, John replied. He felt uncomfortable sitting at the same table with a man like Stephen. He couldn't even understand when this had happened to him. He used to be a normal guy. And now what had he become? Stephen didn't seem to notice how John had changed. He kept ranting. And that father-in-law is always hanging around me. I'm sick of him, but I don't give a damn. I couldn't take care of my little girl. That's not my problem. You shouldn't have let us go to the country then. I'm sick of them all. You should know how much I hate them all. John didn't want to hear any more. He was disgusted. He got up and said that he had an urgent matter to solve. She opened the classrooms, not realizing where the body was. Everything hurt terribly. It felt like she had been ground through a meat grinder. She wanted to lift her head, but she couldn't. She closed her eyes again and fell into sleep. When she woke up again, she realized she was alone again. There was no one around, but she felt a little better herself, and she felt a soft warmth. She turned her head to see where she was. The house was clean. Pickett wasn't very cozy. The sun played bunnies on the floor and on the windowsill. White curtains fluttered in the wind, and the smell of wormwood wafted to her. She closed her eyes again. Could she be in heaven? When she's ready to stay here forever. She closed her eyes again when suddenly she heard footsteps on the porch. Someone was coming, and she didn't want to show that she'd come to her senses at first. To see for herself if she should trust this person or not. What if it was her husband? The memory of him made her chest ache again. She didn't understand how he could do that to her. It turned out to be very simple. He didn't love her. That's all. Someone was walking in the room. Then he came to her bed and leaned over. She couldn't stand it, opened her eyes and cried out. It was John. Kelly, just don't be afraid of me. I didn't hurt you. Kelly nodded. Tears rolled from her eyes. She didn't remember well what had happened to her then after the fall. She remembered well the cold blows and then being carried somewhere. Then she felt someone grab her. She saw it was John and lost consciousness. Then when she came to, she thought she'd dreamed it all up. But it turned out he had saved her. Then what should she do? He's a close friend of her husband's, so she doesn't have long to live. Soon he'll show up and finish the job, and she won't be able to do anything. She's helpless on this bed. Plus her whole body still hurts so far, so she can't even move. John looked at her and gently wiped the tears from her cheeks. She closed her eyes again, but out of fear. Don't be afraid of me, Mash. I'm sorry it happened like that. I was late. Until the last, I didn't think Stephen was capable of such a thing. But to be honest, I felt something and followed you. Kelly opened her eyes and looked at John, so she wasn't imagining it. And she really felt followed. So it was you who was watching us on the fishing trip. Yeah, that was me. I'm sorry I was almost late, but it's okay. I managed to save you. I'm sorry. I didn't know what to do next. I mean, he wanted to kill you. And I still can't believe it. How long have I been here? Almost 3 weeks is a long time to recover. My grandmother lives here, and she's been treating you. We were really scared for you, and I told her that if things continued to get this bad, I would take you into town and tell your father. If you want, I can take you now. Dad's there. I don't want to go anywhere yet. I need to think about it. I know it's wrong, but I need to get my head together. Kelly has been living with her grandmother Vera for 6 months now, helping her with herbs, learning how to brew them properly. She was waiting now too. Grandmother was looking out the window. It was raining outside today. It had been raining since morning, and it was unclear whether it would go on all day or end soon. Then she remembered the meeting with her father and smiled. It had been a week since that conversation with John. She didn't want to see anyone was so depressed. She didn't want to live herself. Then she thought about her father and realized that it wasn't his fault, that he had always tried to do everything for her. She was just mocking him now. When John came again to see how she was doing, she told him to bring her father to her. But what better way to do it? From what I understand, you wouldn't want Stephen to find out. It's too soon for him to know I'm back from the dead. But you should tell your father. I don't want him jeopardizing his health for me. Then do this. I'll tell him how to get an appointment. As I recall, he was interested in some land he wanted to buy. You'll have to offer him a place. Tell him it's right for him. I'll give you the details in a moment. Adding that you don't need intermediaries, that he's the one who should see the place. He'll understand and go with you. Besides, he already knows you a little bit, and I think he won't resist. Just make sure he doesn't recognize Stephen. Okay, Kelly, I'll do as you say. And John, when you get to the place, I want you to prepare him a little bit, because I'm really worried about him, because I don't want him to get hurt. She'll never forget the look on his face when he saw her. The two of them cried and talked for a long time then. John and Grandma waited for them outside. And when they'd had enough, they sat down to tea together. I don't understand how you can wait so long. We have to catch him now and put him in jail. He wanted to kill you. I'm sorry, Dad, but that would be easy for him. And I want revenge. I'm not an evil man, but I can't forgive this. And you know very well how I felt about him. And he knew it. If he had told me the truth, that he wanted a divorce, that he just wanted more money, I would have given him everything. I wouldn't have been sorry. That's why I want to prepare a little bit too, like he's been preparing all this time. John, thank you so much for your daughter. If it wasn't for you, I don't know what would have happened to my little girl. How can I ever thank you? Why don't you join my company? That's the kind of guy I need out there. I'd love to work for you, Robert. I'm afraid I can't yet. Stephen will get the wrong idea. He'll start asking questions, and he might get suspicious. Let's talk about it after this is over. You're right. We'll talk about it after. Now we're going. Come on, daughter. Get ready. Dad, I'm gonna stay here. It's better for everyone. Stephen doesn't live in our house now, but he can come anytime. Besides, I'll be seen by Aunt Clara, your guards, and there's a lot of people there. Even though they're loyal to you, they can still negotiate. So I'll stay here. And you can come and see me anytime. Robert didn't argue. He could see that his daughter was doing very well here. Besides, her grandmother said she was still in treatment, and it would be better for Kelly to stay here. So she's been delayed. It's been over 6 months, a little longer, and soon everything will be back to normal. She'll go back to her father. She'll be back at the company, working and living like nothing ever happened. But it won't be like before. She'll constantly think about what Stephen did to her, but it didn't bother her as much as it used to. She started thinking about John a lot. I really liked that guy, especially his attitude toward her. She began to see the difference between John and Stephen, realized how wrong she'd been. She had mistaken flirting for love. John really loved her, and it showed. Stephen arrived home, and the first thing he did was go into the kitchen. Mom was sitting there reading a magazine. She looked at her son and smiled. Well, son, there is not much left, and soon there will be everything you have dreamed of for so long. And what's so overcast? It seems to me that you should rejoice, because the victory is ours. So I am. I'm not happy though. You know, I feel like my father-in-law's been weird with me lately. The first time he was in mourning, I was doing all the work. And then all of a sudden, it's like he's gone. He won't let me do anything. And now he's giving the most important things not to me, but to his deputy. I thought I was his right-hand man. Now I don't know what's going on in the company. It's disturbing. It's really weird. What's he saying? You asked him about it, right? He doesn't say much. He barely talks to me. And the best part is he doesn't even mention his daughter. And he's having fun. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. It's probably a defensive reaction to what's going on. He realized that he lost his daughter, but naturally, it makes him feel very bad. Our body at such moments tries to put a protective block, and a person begins to live as if nothing had happened. It's okay. Just be patient. Soon half of the company will go to you, as he will have to reckon with you. The main thing is, son, you did it. You did the right thing. And I'm also here to see you about Sophia. I wanted to ask you how things are going over there. It's not good. I've got her so much money. I'm broke. I'm waiting for the inheritance to come to me. And I still don't know where we're putting it. You've got good taste, son. Well, it's up to you, of course, but be careful with her. It's not long before she's pantsless. John sadly realized that Kelly would be leaving his grandmother's tonight. That's right, it's time. Tomorrow, Stephen would go to the notary to sign the necessary papers and receive the inheritance. But that wasn't the point. It seemed to him that as soon as Kelly left for the city, a wall would grow between them. She wouldn't want to hang out with him anymore. After all, they were so good together. He saw it and felt it. Kiryusha, why are you so sad? Something happened. He looked at Kelly, wanted to say that no, but then remembered that they agreed to tell each other the truth. And it was only on the truth that they'd built this fragile relationship. I'm afraid of losing you. I feel like as soon as you cross the threshold and leave, you'll forget about me. John, what are you talking about? You saved my life. That's one thing. And second of all, I've gotten to know you over the past year. I know a certain kind of person, and believe me, I'm not gonna let you go that easily. I feel good with you. I really hope to continue our communication with you. Stephen drove to the notary's office. At the appointed time, he saw his father-in-law's car and grimaced. He thought that he had absolutely nothing to do here, but apparently he had to be present at the reading of the will. All right, let him be here if it wouldn't interfere with anything. He has endured the mourning, and now he can go about his business and his life in peace. Robert was no one to him now. He was on his way to the building when he saw his friend John pull up. They hadn't spoken much lately, Stephen had called him, but he kept saying he was busy and couldn't meet him. "Hi, what are you doing here? I had some business to check out." "Why are you here?" "Well, it's my birthday. It's been a year, and I'm inheriting the estate that my untimely departed Janny left me. I propose to celebrate tonight at the restaurant. Are you coming to congratulate me?" "Probably not. It's a celebration without me. I think you'll find someone." "Who to celebrate with?" "Hey, did you get a girlfriend? 'Cause you weren't like this before. You were always hanging out with me. And now you're like a stranger." "You're right. I have a girlfriend. She and I are in love. And I really hope we get married soon. But you have to. You'll invite me to the wedding. You know, somehow, I don't think you'll have time for me. Besides, you're getting an inheritance, and that opens up a whole new set of prospects for you. So you won't have time for my wedding." "Well, you mean, invite me. Maybe I can make time for you." John did not answer, but walked silently forward and out of the door. Stephen looked after him, not understanding what had happened to his friend. He had seen the way he looked at him today and did not understand the reason. Then it became clear to him. John was just jealous of him. Understandably, he has to work all the time. When Stephen's life was going great, and now it would be even better. The notary didn't see him at the appointed time. He had to wait another half hour, but Stephen didn't care. There was no hurry now. Everything went as smoothly as possible. No one noticed anything. No one guessed anything, and he would wait. He waited a year, so now it's just a half hour for him. And finally, he was invited. He walked into the office with a smile and froze. First he saw her. She was sitting next to her father in his wheelchair, and she looked beautiful. It was Kelly, the living Kelly. Standing next to her was John. Stephen noticed that Kelly was holding his hand. He didn't realize what was happening. He thought at first that he was just going crazy with joy, or that he was just dreaming. And then he'd wake up, and it would all go away. It's not gonna happen. And he'd have everything just the way he wanted it. The cops came up to him, cuffed his hands. They talked about how he was accused of killing his wife. But he wasn't interested in hearing it. It came to him that everything was gone, that he had not become a millionaire and the owner of the company, that now he would be shut down, and he would now be in jail. Then he looked at John. I remembered his words that he would not invite him to the wedding, that Stephen simply would not have time to come to them. So he knew everything. Well, why didn't he tell them? What do you care? He's still going to jail for killing his wife.